Welcome to the Conservation Board meeting of Southampton Town for July 8th, 2026. I would invite everyone to rise for the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What is your pleasure on the minutes of June 10th, 2026?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
I abstain.
Wait a second. Look, we're
Yeah, I
short
don't-
one.
Sorry?
That's a tough one.
For
We'll go
the
back to that when
June
Tom
10th
gets here.
meeting.
Yeah. I was
But June
not here.
24th,
I abstain.
We're gonna wait.
Can't have anything to do with it.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're easily there. What's your pleasure on the minutes of June 24th?
Motion to accept? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstention.
Advisory reports for Robert Selkin and Stacy Selkin.
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This is a variance application for a residentially developed property located at Hidden Pond Lane in the hamlet of West Hampton. The application was submitted with regards to the unauthorized construction of a sports court that needs dimensional setback relief. There are several recommended advisory comments. First indicates that the unauthorized sports court is located greater than 200 feet landward of the town-regulated freshwater wetlands. To the east of such, no town wetland permit is needed in order to legalize or permit court. Second, any relocation of the existing sports court to a conforming dimensional setback location in the northerly naturally vegetated portion of the property may necessitate tree removal, clearing, and grading in excess of 2,000 square feet, and therefore may be subject to the provisions of the recently adopted land disturbance law, Section 330-69.5 to Section 330-69.14 within Chapter 330, which of course is the zoning of the town code. Thirdly, this local law requires a permit for land disturbance on residential properties, defined generally as the removal of trees and natural vegetation within areas taking in greater than 2,000 square feet, but less than 50% of the property and/or grade changes in excess of 2-foot contours from existing natural grade on properties with a lot size of 20,000 square feet or greater, and is designed to enable property owners to achieve their development objectives to the maximum extent practicable while avoiding unnecessary tree removal, clearing, and grade changes. The Southampton Town Land Management Administrator or designee is charged with administering the law and with issuing land disturbance permits subject to certain standards where clearing exceeding 50% of the property is proposed. Planning board approval is required. Fourth, submittal of a land disturbance application would therefore likely be required if the sports court is relocated north of the residence, followed by land management administrative review and rendering of a decision with regards to compatibility with the code and granting of any needed land disturbance permit. Thank you.
Motion to send those comments to the zoning board of appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Diane Ravitch.
Pending variance application relates to existing residentially developed property at Land's End Lane in the Cold Spring Point community in the hamlet of Tuckahoe. The first recommended comment indicates that the survey is prepared by Lester Holden, dated February 4, 2013, with a latest revision date of March 27, 2026, which was submitted with the pending variance application, has already been approved by the Conservation Board pursuant to wetland permit number CB 26024, which was issued on May 6, 2026. And second, as a restored unfenced, naturally vegetated wetland, non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer has been required pursuant to the covenant recorded with the Suffolk County Clerk. There are no significant environmental concerns related to the requested dimensional setback, lot coverage, and pyramid relief.
Motion to send those comments to the zoning board of appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? For the planning board, prime storage site plan application.
This is a pending site plan application for an industrial site. The property is located at 229 Butter Lane in the hamlet of Bridgehampton. There are several recommended advisory comments. The first notes that design changes are warranted, consistent with the town's climate action plan goals to better resilience to climate change and to make the project more environmentally sustainable. Needed climate actions include, among others, installation of roof solar panels. Second, a supplemental landscape and tree planting plan should be required as part of the site plan application, and that's in order to enhance visual buffering as well as to lessen energy demands for cooling, to improve air quality, and to foster carbon sequestration. Thirdly, mitigative measures aimed at reducing urban heat island effects are likewise needed, including incorporating green parking infrastructure by using light-colored concrete, reflective coatings on asphalt, or permeable vegetated pavers, as well as by adding large canopy trees. And lastly, these climate-smart actions are needed as urban heat islands have significantly harmful community effects, including elevating surrounding temperatures, air quality degradation, and increased energy demands and requirements, as well as restricting groundwater recharge with the presence of asphalt and concrete. According to the US EPA, urban heat islands have the ability to make the surrounding air temperature feel up to 7 degrees Fahrenheit warmer.
Motion to send those comments to the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's go back to the
Recuse
minutes.
myself from that vote.
Let's go back to the minutes. What's your pleasure on the minutes of June 10th, 2026?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed?
I abstain. I was absent.
Yeah,
Same.
that's absent.
The administrative wetland permits are in your packets. Move on for the resolution of conditional approval. A019131, the Patricia Lynn Prue Revocable Trust. The applicant requests postponement to July 22nd, 2026.
Is it ever going to get voted on?
I'm
We can
yet
reopen the hearing
waiting-
and see what the site conditions are again if they're not ready.
I am yet waiting on a revised plan from the applicant, consistent with the Conservation Board recommendations that were made at the public hearing. The
They
applicant
have to move
had
on
come
this.
back
This is
with a
getting
plan,
annoying.
but it was not consistent with the board's discussion at the hearing.
I'm not going to keep voting for it.
Motion to postpone till July 22nd, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
A024028, Douglas Bauer, Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
I do have a question on it. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to read it yet because I think it wasn't in the packets that were available. One of the things we talked about at the hearing on this project was the construction phasing, and I just want to know if where that's reflected in this resolution.
Yeah, after the close of the public hearing, I detailed for the applicant all of the necessary documents that were needed in order to draft a resolution of conditional approval. In addition to a revised survey, revised site plan, and buffer, revegetation, native landscape plan, I had also asked for the requisite construction sequencing and methodology report. The applicant has come back with that report that the board asked for, and it's consistent with the board's recommendations and requirements that were discussed at the public hearing. And the intent of that report, of course, is this is property that's in for redevelopment, and that final plan calls for retention of the existing one-story home and renovation. And as you recall, the board had required that the architect perform interior structural assessments in order to confirm whether or not they could go forward with the renovations to the existing home without demolition and reconstruction. So the sequencing report indicates step by step that those assessments are going to be performed, and in the event that the consequence of that evaluation is that more extensive demolition and reconstruction is found to be warranted than was discussed at the hearing, they will come back to the board. They'll report back to my office, and they will file the requisite application. Whether that's a modification, a new application, would be based upon the assessment. As you recall, the board had required that that assessment be completed prior to commencement of construction of any new foundations or new additions on the property. They were also asked to take a better look at the existing foundation to see if only minor repairs may be warranted, or whether or not the foundation would have to be reconstructed. So the sequencing report is very detailed, and it is consistent with what this board asked for. And it is referenced in the resolution of conditional approval before you.
That compliance with that sequencing plan is a condition of the permit.
I'm sorry?
That compliance with that sequencing plan is a condition of the permit.
Yeah, as you remember, they had come forward with practicable alternatives, and the board had found that generally alternative 2, as revised, was acceptable. So they have come forward with the needed refinement of that drawing, the needed survey and site plan. The resolution does indicate, though, that some revisions are needed to those documents, but they're minor. They center primarily on the need to make sure that all existing fence lines within the required covenanted buffer will be wholly removed, and that no new fence lines will encroach within the buffer.
Thanks, Marty. I was really just concerned about this, that the sequencing plan, compliance with the sequencing plan is a condition of the permit. And
Yes.
it sounds like it is.
Yes, it's written
Thank
right
you.
into the, I'm sorry.
No, you don't need to apologize. I appreciate all the detail. I just wanted to not take everybody's time. I had that one issue.
It's been moved and seconded. Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Douglas Bauer for the proposed project about the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025011, 41 Tarquin Road LLC, the applicant requests postponement to July 22nd,
Just
2000.
as an update on that, at the last meeting, I had indicated that the applicant had just hired a new agent. That the agent needed sufficient time to come forward with the required revised plan. I did speak briefly with the agent today, and he said that he has scheduled a meeting with the landowners tomorrow in order to discuss the final needed refinements to that plan in order for us to go forward with a rendering determination on the application.
Will they be ready by July 22nd, or are they just going to ask for another adjournment?
sorry?
Are they going to be ready by July 22nd, or should we make it later?
He has at least implied that he will be, but I will keep in touch with him. And I will follow up with him after his meeting with the landowners tomorrow to make sure that they're proceeding as requested.
Motion to postpone to July 22nd, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025021, Mark Charbonneau and Donna Charbonneau, the applicant requests postponement to July 22nd, 2026.
What we have been waiting on in order to go forward with a conditional approval is the final buffer plan. The applicant, again, in the past week, submitted an alternate buffer plan, which I recommended be revised to be consistent with the Conservation Board and Environment Division recommendations for this. Hopefully, we're talking about relatively minor revisions, but they're critical in order for us to go forward with the approval. So hopefully those revisions will be completed and will be ready to go ahead at the next meeting.
They better be.
Motion to postpone to July 22nd, 2026.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? A 025054, Charlie Denby and Elspeth Belton. Any discussion?
I just want to offer on this application that you'll see that the preliminary advisory report cover sheet is not in your packets. Partly because the application was submitted prior to establishing that policy change and protocol. But the good news is that the project now is fully compliant in terms of required wetland construction and buffer setbacks. I had initially recommended project changes, and they were debating as to whether or not to request a hearing to seek relief, but they have since agreed to all of the recommendations, so that now this project is 100% compliant. There is a minor revision that's needed to the survey with regard to the extent of native revegetation, but the project is fully compliant. So I apologize for not having that cover sheet in your packet.
It's good news.
Motion to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Charlie Denby and Elspeth Velton for the proposed project about the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025055, 2268 Deerfield LLC. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to 2268 Deerfield LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Preliminary review, secret determination, A 024060 Carter Simpson and Sloan Simpson, applicant request performance of July 22nd, 2026.
FYI on this, I met with the applicant's agent because we've been waiting on a revised survey consistent with the recommendations contained in my preliminary advisory report. And she indicated that that survey had been completed, but it was incorrect, and that she's expecting to get the corrected survey consistent with my recommendations to us in the very near future. So hopefully, we'll be able to go forward with this application at the next meeting.
Motion to postpone to July 22nd, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A025023, Andrew Bowman and Laura Calendra.
Good evening again, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This application relates to an existing residentially developed property, which
Pencil.
has frontage on Shinnecock Bay West and Phillips Creek. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated June 29, 2026. Again, this is an existing developed property located on Sunset Avenue in East Quogue. The application was made in order to gain this board's approval to complete various residential accessory improvements at the site. As indicated by the report, the property has some history in that the board had acted on a prior wetland permit for former owners of the parcel back in 2018. That was conditioned upon the establishment of covenanted wetland preservation areas and naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffers, as well as upon expansive native planting in order to fully reclaim those buffers. Although those covenants were filed and are in effect, the site conditions have significantly changed, and that the extent of wetlands on the property today is less than was defined back in 2018, both as a factor of human disturbance as well as drying conditions and invasive vegetation, and perhaps poor management of the covenanted areas. That being said, I worked with the applicant to redefine those wetland boundaries for the purposes of going forward with this application. At my request, the applicant has come forward with a plan showing buffering, which generally provides for an average overall buffer of 75 feet, taking in lands within 75 feet of the wetlands. There is native planting that's planned as well. So there is a need to amend the recorded covenant consistent with the changes in site conditions to reflect the less extensive wetlands and the reconfigured buffers on the site, as indicated by the language in the recorded covenant. Amendment of that covenant will require a majority plus one vote on part of this board. That being said, the applicant and my office have agreed upon an acceptable and reasonable plan for this property in terms of permitted accessory improvements and needed site restoration to protect wetland values and benefits. So at this time, we do have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8E of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025048, Diane Loanis, applicant request postponement to July 22nd, 2026.
Motion to postpone to July 22nd, 2026.
Now, that'll happen at the
Second.
conditional approval stage.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025059, 203 Noyak LLC.
Morty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This pending application relates to an existing residentially developed property in the hamlet of North Sea. Property has frontage on North Sea Harbor, contains town and state regulated tidal wetlands, and also is adjacent to interior town and state regulated flooded freshwater wetlands. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated June 29, 2026. The applicant is seeking approval from this board in order to expand the living area at this residence. That would be accomplished through a combination of conversion and partial conversion of an attached garage and porch to a living area, as well as by building an addition to the residence. My advisory report makes recommendations in terms of needed covenanted wetland preservation areas and naturally vegetated buffers, as well as native revegetation that's warranted at the site. However, as the residence is being significantly expanded, I have recommended that the existing sanitary system, which consists of a septic tank and leaching pools, that it be upgraded by retrofit in addition of an IAOW TS. I believe that upgrade is necessary in order to protect the wetlands and surface water quality. The applicant has expressed that they are not amenable to upgrading the sanitary system. As such, recommending that a public hearing be scheduled.
Motion to schedule public hearing for August 12th.
2026.
Second.
Sure hope so.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules the public hearing for August 12, 2026, and the notice of public hearing be published in the town designated newspaper pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8C of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the last on this part of the agenda is resolution to issue modification, CB 23057, Michael Hausman.
This pending wetland permit modification application relates to a property in Flanders on Pearson Road that is undergoing extensive residential redevelopment. The issuance of the permit was conditioned upon establishment of expansive wetland preservation areas and restored naturally vegetated buffers. The applicant is looking to make some minor changes to the plan. I did have an opportunity to meet with the landowner in order to tour the property and discuss those changes. Changes is somewhat minimal in that they include installation of various fence lines and relocation of the chicken coop on the property. As the applicant has agreed to recommendations that I made with regards to the type of fences that could be installed in various locations. And whereas I have no issue with relocation of the chicken coop, the project plans are unlikely to result in any additional wetland impacts. As such, there is a resolution before you to approve the necessary wetland permit modifications to allow them to go forward with the fence installation and the relocation of the chicken coop.
Motion to issue the modification.
Second?
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to Michael Houseman for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearings. A 025019, Stephen Tempesta and Jennifer Tempesta.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Aram Tertunian, First Coastal, West Hampton Beach, New York, on behalf of the applicant. I apologize to the board and to Marty for giving them a report this morning at 11:30. But I want you to know that we've been working on this for 10 days, and the short week last week didn't help us. But I think that we've arrived at a design that meets the scientific and engineering standards and the design of this board. So you should have a letter from Delandro Andrews Engineering dated July 7th in your packet, as well as a set of revised plans.
That is?
This is it right here? Thanks, Greg.
Right there, in Ann's hand.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Will have.
I just want to forewarn you, there's a lot of mathematical equations in here, and there will be a test after my presentation. Just as a preamble, developing a dynamic cobble beach is a pretty exacting science. There's a lot of research that goes into this, and the basic what the engineers have developed is something called an N number. I don't know why they call it N, but they call it N. And the N number goes from 1 to 6. 1 is basically a highly mobile sandy beach. And the N number is related to the wave height, the density of the material, and the diameter of the material. So that's pretty straightforward. How big is it? How dense is it? And what are the waves that are impacting it? So those are the three major variables that go into determining that. So 1 is a sandy beach, and 6 is a rock revetment. So the object here is to get something that is right around 3. 3 is the material is mobile under the design wave conditions. Some of it is very mobile, some of it is not very mobile. So anything between about 2.5 and about 4.5 is the sweet spot for determining that the stone that you're going to place for the cobble is the right stone based upon the size, the density, and the expected wave height. So that's really laid out for you on the second page where they talk about, you can see they talk about the relative submerged density. You have to remember that these structures have to function when they're completely submerged in seawater. So the density in the air is a lot different than the density in seawater, relatively speaking. So that has to be taken into account initially. So you have the submerged density, the density of the material, and the density of the seawater. Now you can get a better understanding of how this material is going to act. Then you have to impose on that whatever wave is going to hit that. So in this case, the design is for a 15-year storm, and that wave is 4.61 feet. So putting all those together, we've got 3 different stone sizes here, 8-inch, 11-inch, and 14-inch. So it's a mixture. You know, this is not a Lego set where you get every piece exactly the same. When you get stone, it comes in a variety of sizes. So as you can see, the 8-inch stone has an end number of 4.51, which means that that's pretty mobile. It's moving. Oh, I did it backwards. I'm sorry. 1 is a static revetment, 6 is a sandy beach. All right? So we'll have to reset that. Thank you.
Flunked the test.
I did. I flunked my own test.
The bigger the number, the more you.
Yeah, right. So the larger the number, the more mobile it is. So you can see that 8-inch stone has an end number of 4.51, which means it's really mobile. So even 8-inch stone is going to be moving around quite a bit. When you get to 11-inch stone, it's got an end number of 3.28. That means it's just above stability, and it's definitely going to move. It's just not going to move as much. And then the 14-inch stone has an end number of 2.59, which means that it's going to be relatively static. But again, this is just a mixture. You have most of this rock is going to be mobile. Some of it is not going to be mobile. And you need that combination in order for the entire structure to function properly. I also, I'm sorry.
Could you clarify one thing? When you say 8-inch, 11-inch, 14-inch, what dimension of the stone is that?
That's the diameter.
So these are generally round stones?
Sub-rounded, there can be some angular stone in there as well,
It
but
could be a square stone, would be 8 by 8 by 8?
yeah,
Okay, so 8-inch stone is,
yeah. 8-inch, 10-inch,
You didn't
12
bring
inch,
any in,
14
did you?
inches like a basketball.
Did you bring any in for us to look?
You know what? I'm going to blame Kyle for that one because we had a box full of them and we didn't bring them in. They were heavy. We have photos. The other thing I want to point out is that we're operating on 60 linear feet of beach. We're not operating on what I would like to be doing, which is 800 to 1,000 feet of beach. So this structure needs to be, a little more stable. Otherwise, it's going to spread very rapidly to the side. So,
Are you saying that you're going to need more 14-inch than you
no,
are 8-inch?
it's really a third, and a third.
Okay.
That's the way, it's a blend. So, but I think that the 14-inch stone is necessary as anchoring part of this. But it's not going to be a line of 14-inch stone. It's going to be, a random dumping of 8, 11, and 14-inch stone.
If you don't mind me asking, what's the length from like the,
That's a great question. If you go to page 3.
oh man, I'm skipping pages already, jeez.
So if you go to page 3, you'll see a cross-section of the proposed cobble beach berm. So the entire footprint is about 17 feet from the seaward toe to the top, to the landward crest. So it's about 17 feet horizontally, 17 to 22, depending. And the slope of this is a 1.5 to 1. So if you probably don't recall, but in the revetment design we originally submitted, it was 1 to 1. This is 1.5 to 1. So it's a more gentle slope, which is what we want when we have a cobble beach berm, because the object is that this moves. It's dynamic, it's not static. So a gentler slope is better in that regard. Also, it makes it function better because if it's steeper and the material moves, you'll get a lot of displacement of the material that's up high, which will slough down low. By creating a more gentle slope, you don't get that.
Will the low tide, will the low tide cover these cobblestones, or will there be a space between them?
Well, if you look at the cross-section, about half the structure is located below the beach, below the level of the beach, buried below the level of the beach, and about half of it sticks above.
So that's about 8 feet above? 8 feet of the length of the height of the berm?
No, the crest,
Instead of
the crest
17
height is,
feet.
I think, 9.0, and the beach height here is about in between 1 and 2. It varies a little bit,
So it'd be about 7 feet above.
about 7 feet, on a slope. And what we expect to happen, based upon the site conditions, is the natural material that's there, which is sand and gravel, will also be pushed up onto this and mix into it. So if you've been to the site, you'll notice that there's a big gravel beach, both in front of the site and to the north. So that material is going to be pushed up by waves and pushed on top of the structure.
Just so I can envision it, you're talking 9 feet like this?
Yeah, 9 feet vertical, half below the beach, half
Coming down to ground?
coming down. Yeah, so it would be at 6 or 7 feet above ground and 4 or 5 feet below ground. And that again is also. I think that's also on page. On page 2, no, I think it's on page 1. This includes approximately 1 foot of freeboard. So freeboard is important. So freeboard is important because you'll have, your waves are not completely uniform, so you'll have what they call sets of waves that will come in, and some of them will be larger than the average wave height. And so you need a factor of safety that we call freeboard. They have the same thing in the FEMA and the New York State Residential Building Code, which is to account for these larger than average waves which will be striking during a storm. So we've incorporated a 1 foot of freeboard into the height of the structure. And that the height of the structure is based upon the wave height, and then if you see on page 1, which says the post-scour wave run-up. So that is when a wave breaks and runs up the beach. We call that wave run-up. So you can see that the post-scour wave run-up is 8.0 feet. We're recommending, the engineers are recommending a design of plus 9 feet to give 1 foot of freeboard.
Just a quick question. The third paragraph says the proposed cobble bluff geometry maintains the same crest and toe elevations as the previously designed revetment. So basically, the revetment was vertical,
Well, 1 to 1.
and so this is sort of slanting up to that same height.
That's right.
You said that naturally there's going to be movement. In my head, I could be wrong, but in my head I'm thinking waves are hitting this, let's say it was an incoming tide, they're going to be moving those stones upward.
Yep.
So eventually you may be higher than 9 feet.
No, because they're not, that's not been the experience of these structures because of gravity. Yes, the waves are pushing them up and gravity's pulling them back down. Plus, you have to understand, when the wave is hitting the structure, it will dislodge stones that are higher up, causing, and with the backrush of the wave and gravity will cause them to settle. And that's all part of this design. If, one of the classic signals of a cobble beach is when you go there when there's wave action, you hear the rocks rolling and hitting each other. If you've ever been out to Montauk and gone east of the downtown beach where you get into Shadmore, And that's all cobble beaches in there. And when the waves are striking that, you can hear the cobbles just banging around. And that's similar, it's gonna bang around and make sand. That's what they're gonna do. Mechanical weathering. So we're very pleased with the work that DeLandre Andrews did. I can tell you that we independently reached out to the authors. We've submitted to you previously an article that was published in Shore and Beach magazine that had developed this whole end system from mobile to stability. We reached out to those authors and we asked them to verify our calculations, and they emailed me today to tell us that we were within like 1/10 of 1%. So we're very comfortable with this as a reasonable approach on this particular site. We think that it will be even better if the neighbors get in. I think there's always safety in numbers. And with that, my desire is that the board close the hearing for a decision.
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief of Environmental Analyst for the town. Because of the late submittal of these documents, I was unable to thoroughly review the reports and drawings, nor return to the subject property for the needed reassessment of site conditions. That being said, I did listen to the testimony tonight, and I did look at the drawings. At the last public hearing, the applicant was asked to come forward with a nature-based cobble, berm, and beach plan. The project plans that have been presented do not call for a cobble, nature-based cobble, beach, and berm plan. Rather, they call for construction of an alternate revetment. If you look at the plans, you'll see that what the applicant is seeking approval for is angled rock armor that would be on base stone. It would have sheet pile wing walls or returns. So this is structured rock armor, which is not consistent with the concept of coming forward with compatible nature-based cobble, beach, and berm plan. What I'd like to share with the board is some literature, and I'll share with the applicant as well, showing the intended cobble, berm, and beach plan for this site as recommended by my office. I also have some recommendations with regards to the needed evaluation of practicable alternatives to the plans that were just submitted to you tonight. So, Karina, I'd like to just put up some of these drawings here as well. So, so first I'm going to hand out some information showing you what a nature-based cobble berm would look like. And this is an approach to beach stabilization that is quite commonplace on the Oregon coast as an alternative to shore hardening and engineered rock revetments or bulkheads. It's an approach that is designed to be modeled after natural coastal ecosystems and natural coastal processes, so that it's designed to be more compatible with wetlands, with the bay, and with the environment. Second handout kind of gives you some basic information about what a cobble berm is.
I'm gonna put this up.
Yep. And just to quickly read off these two handouts. Cobble berms are generally referred to as a nature-based approach for coastal resilience, and they're intended to mimic the natural conditions at a beach and enhance the natural ability of the beach to protect itself. When you proceed with constructing a cobble berm and beach, basically what you're placing is loose cobble of varying sizes, and the sizes are typically significantly less than what the applicant is proposing as part of their angled rock armor. So just to read some of the information on this second handout here. What is cobble? Cobble are small round stones, usually between 4 and 10 inches wide. The cobble berm approach is intended to be a dynamic approach to shore stabilization. And as noted by the handout, in referring to the dynamic system, which is intended by constructing a cobble berm, it indicates that coastal constantly changing systems, shifting and moving over months, seasons, and years. Cobble berms are designed to move and shift with the coastline, responding to storms and waves. The cobble is placed at grade and above grade. The plan that was just presented to you calls for construction of rock armor that goes significantly subgrade, which is not consistent with the generally accepted dynamic cobble berm and beach approach. Why use a cobble berm? Cobble berms provide many benefits: flexible and adaptable coastal protection, potential habitat for native plant and animal species, low cost maintenance, preservation of coastline aesthetics. The handout also notes that in designing a cobble berm, you want to look at wave energy and tide levels. You want to look at site conditions. So it's essentially what you would be. Right now, the beach is primarily a cobble beach. So what you would be doing is supplementing the existing cobble with additional cobble that would be placed on the current cobble, which would provide greater stabilization and also allow for dynamic shifting of that cobble berm and beach as the tides and storm events occur. We also have a photo here of a cobble berm that was constructed at a beach in Oregon. Granted, this picture shows a very wide sand beach in front of the cobble berm, which you don't have at the subject property. But the reason I'm handing out this photo is to show you that what a creation of a dynamic, nature-based dynamic cobble berm and beach is all about is just really placing additional natural cobble of sizes that are compatible with the existing cobble. As you get to the higher beach, as depicted on the drawing, you would, consistent with natural coastal processes, you would berm up the cobble a little bit, maybe to about 2 or 3 feet above existing grades. And that would mimic what occurs during storm events when the storms pick up the cobble from the bay bottom and they bring it high up on the beach and create a higher berm. By going with the nature-based cobble berm and beach approach at this property, you would be looking to enhance the stabilization that's provided by the existing cobble, while not adversely impacting aquatic life, and doing it in a manner that mimics natural or is modeled after natural cobble beaches. The plans that were presented tonight, which call for what looks to me an alternate revetment as consistent with revetment construction. You initially put bedding stone down, you then put larger stone on top of that stone, you angle it, and a good portion of that is subgrade. And the applicant, notwithstanding the concerns that were expressed at the prior hearing about the returns that were originally proposed as part of the revetment, if you look at the handouts that the applicant just offered, he's still looking to create vinyl sheet wall returns. There's the construction that is being, construction of the rock armor that is being proposed at the applicant tonight, again, poses those adverse impacts that we were looking to avoid. Poses risk of significant wetland loss, increased erosion, not only in front of that rock armor during a significant storm event, but also downdrift. So surely this rock armor that the applicant is proposing is going to have downdrift impacts. It's also going to interfere with the public's foreshore rights of pass and repass along this beach. Look at the size of the stone that the applicant is proposing to utilize as compared to what's recommended when you go forward with a nature-based cobble berm and beach approach. Creates a lot of issues in terms of public pass and repass. The proposed alternate angled rock armoring is also going to result in loss of habitat for wetland-dependent wildlife. As was discussed at the last hearing, the shoreline at this property provides significant benefits for breeding horseshoe crabs, as well as shorebirds, for seaweeds, for all kinds of marine invertebrates, and by significantly modifying the upper beach, you're actually destroying a significant portion of wetlands and habitat that's essential at this location. Remember, wetlands as defined by Chapter 325 not only speak about vegetated wetlands, but they also define wetlands as any areas that are not only subject to tidal action between mean high and mean low tide, but They also, the code also defines as wetlands beaches extending up to the higher rack lines as a result of storm events. The excavation of this area, the construction of this engineered rock armor will reduce a significant footprint of beach and therefore result in habitat loss. So I unfortunately tonight, notwithstanding the lengthy hearing, the last lengthy hearing, and recommendations that were made to the applicant, there is clearly a need for the applicant to further evaluate practicable alternatives. And this is just a brief summary of my findings based upon the presentation tonight.
I have a question, Marty.
So, based upon the entire hearing record, based upon the application materials, the most recent drawings and information that was presented tonight, consistent with earlier recommendations that my office has made, I am recommending that practicable alternatives, namely dynamic, nature-based cobble berm consisting of Bay Beach compatible deposited unfixed, non-structurally enforced 4 to 8 inches wide round cobblestone with approximate mounded upper beach berm height of 2 to 3 feet above existing beach grade, be explored as means of complementing the existing bay cobble, that the nature-based cobble berm and beach be backed by sand dune and beach grass. The applicant has indicated that part of their project's plans call for a creation of a duno feature. Again, consistent with the applicant's current plans, recommending that approach together with piling elevated 2-story new house and deck, but I'm recommending that, again, as discussed at prior meetings, that the footprint remain the same as the existing 1-story home. I had an opportunity to look at the current redevelopment plans, and it's while the side yard setbacks for the new principal structure would appear to be grandfathered. Recall that the applicant is seeking to extend the deck close to the property lines. The required minimal side yard setback in the zone for accessory structures is 10 feet. The applicant's plan shows that they only want to allow for a 6.8 foot side yard setback for the deck. So I would recommend that the new deck comply with the minimum required 10 foot side yard setback in the zone. The plans also warrant relief in terms of the required roadside setbacks because of the expansion of the house footprint and the addition of the entry porch. The applicant's plans call for a 27-foot setback from the road. That's going to require a zoning variance because the minimum roadside setback that the building division can allow for without relief is a 30-foot setback. So not only is the applicant yet coming forward with a new larger house that requires approval of significantly lesser construction footprints, but it also requires zoning relief. Now, because it's a two-story structure and the house is so close to the property lines, I acknowledge and recognize that in all likelihood, the applicant will need to seek pyramid law relief for the second story. But that being said, I would again recommend that the footprint of the house and the deck be reduced, not only to lessen adverse impacts to wetlands, but also to negate the need for relief from the required side yard dimensional setbacks in this zone. Remember that in defining practicable alternatives, the code clearly indicates that one of the options that need to be looked at in the interest of minimizing wetland impacts is scaling down the footprint of construction. There's a one-story home there. I have no issue with the applicant building a two-story home in order to provide additional habitable space, but I cannot support expansion of the house and deck footprint on properties such as this that is so constrained by wetlands and has erosion issues. In summation, I'm recommending that the applicant come back to this board with a nature-based dynamic cobble, berm, and beach approach using bay compatible cobble of lesser size than the most landward cobble berm, not exceed about 2 to 3 feet. And that they yet go forward with a plan for deposition of sand and planting of beach grass landward of that. And I think if they go with that approach, together with elevation of the new house on pilings, together with continued periodic Suffolk County Department of Public Works renourishment of this beach, that should be sufficient to protect the home. Recognize that this property is in a flood zone, and notwithstanding that it's vulnerable to flooding during severe storm events and severe wind events, the applicant has chosen to put their new home at even greater risk of damage by expanding the footprint. That being said, the elevation of the new home on pilings, together with the nature-based cobble berm and beach, and the creation of the dune, the revegetation, and the periodic renourishment should be sufficient and would appear to be compatible with the wetland permit issuance standards that need to be applied with regards to this application. One of the reasons I had hoped that the applicant would get their plan to me last week, as he indicated he would, so that with that plan in hand, I could revisit the property, not only to better understand why the applicant is wants to go forward with their plan, but also to look at existing natural vegetation on the beachfront, and to look at whether or not, in addition to these other measures, the existing natural vegetative cover needs to be protected. While that vegetation may be focused primarily along the side yards, it is having some benefits in terms of stabilizing some of that beachfront. So I think the applicant needs to look at whether or not it makes sense to retain as much of that existing natural vegetative cover as well. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Aram Tertunian, First Coastal, on behalf of the applicant. So let's look at the facts. This is not a cobble beach, this is a gravel beach. So back in undergraduate school, they taught me the Wentworth scale. The Wentworth scale is what geologists use to gauge the size of material, from sand to pebbles to gravel to cobbles to boulders and above. So under the Wentworth scale, anything below 2 inches is not a cobble, it's a gravel. So that's what's there on the beach now. There are some cobbles, if you've been to the site, on the property, on the boundary of the property just to the south, which appeared to have they appear to be naturally occurring, but may have been stacked up there. You'll notice they're reasonably stable. Again, if you've been to the site, if you've looked at the photos, then you can see them there. So we're dealing with really a gravel beach. And the problem is the gravel's too light. It's too small, and it's too light, and it's being eroded away. The vegetation, if vegetation was going to work at this site, it wouldn't be eroding. The site, all the vegetation on this site is being undercut by erosion. That's why we're here, because the land in its current condition is eroding because the tide and wave forces are too great for the material that's on the site right now. So we understand what is cobble. It's 4 to 8 inch, 4 to 10 inch material, okay? So look at our plan. You have it in front of you. The lower level is all 4 to 8 inch stone, okay? That's all cobble. The upper part is 8 to 14 inch stone. More than half of that is cobble. So why did we do that? Well, if you look at Marty's handout, it says you got some key considerations, all right? The first one is wave energy and tide levels. So what did we do? We went to an engineer and we said, what are the wave energy and tide levels that are going to impact this site? And how would you size the cobble to match those conditions? Well, if you look at the bottom of that, it says top 10 considerations. So I used my phone and I found the Stone Living Lab 10 top considerations. Number 1, define the resiliency goals at your site. The resiliency goals at the site are to stop the erosion and to control the flooding, to control the erosion and to control the flooding. All right? So why do we need to be at elevation 9? Because the wave at 4.61 feet with the tide surge will run up to at least 8 feet above sea level. So if we build something to 4 or 5 or 6 feet, guess what? It doesn't work. It just gets overtopped, the area gets flooded, and gets further eroded. So we're not looking at arbitrary standards here. These are defined standards based upon the incident wave action and what material is going to be dynamically stable on this beach. The other consideration they say here is partner with professionals to evaluate design options. Seek out expert guidance to help confirm the existing physical processes and site conditions are appropriate for a cobble berm project. That's exactly what the applicant did. Went out to the very best, went to a local engineering company, went to the people who wrote the article, the science on how to design a dynamic cobble berm. That's what we're bringing to you. So look at this look at the photo that Marty put in here. That's what we're going to do. He wants us to build something to 2 or 3 feet above grade. Well, grade here, if you look at the cross section, is about 4 feet, and the top of our structure is about 9 feet. So there's going to be about 5 feet exposed. I could not sleep at night if I was going to recommend to my client they should build something that I know is going to fail the first time it gets hit by a storm. That would be the height of irresponsibility on my part, and I won't do it. So I think that when you look at the facts as we've presented them to this board and the exhaustive amount of alternative analysis that we have done, and what the applicant has provided to this board in the way of every conceivable form of erosion control and flood control that could be applied to this site, from offshore breakwaters to sand nourishment to vegetation to geotextiles to core logs. We've gone through the gamut. And at our last meeting, this board indicated that they would support a cobble beach and berm. We went out and we found the very best people in the country who do this work and have come to you with exactly what they have recommended. So I'm not substituting my judgment for the engineering judgment, and I don't think anybody else should either. So I appreciate Marty's perspective. Quite frankly, he's describing, what he described to you is exactly what we're doing. He just doesn't like the height of it. And if you look at the other applications that this board has approved, it's the same size material with random boulders that are 18 inches in diameter. This is scientifically designed based upon site conditions by professionals who do it, and we should trust their judgment and not substitute our own. And so, you know, I know you want to hear from the public, and I do as well, but I believe that you have the information necessary to make a decision. Thank you. Questions?
I have a question on the, I'm looking at, well, your angle, this picture right here. And I see there's a slope, and some goes below grade, some goes above grade. What holds those rock members together?
They're just gravity. There's no binding, there's no glue, there's nothing. It's gravity and mass density. It's what's called a gravity structure.
And what's the purpose of the retaining,
The returns.
yeah,
Yeah, the returns are necessary because it's a 60-foot wide property. And these structures fail when the water gets around behind them and erodes the soft sand and causes them to collapse. If we were doing 800 or 1,000 feet of this, we wouldn't have that kind of a problem because you'd have a continuous protection. But if we're doing 60 feet, we have to protect that structure with sidewalls. But it's not, the sidewalls are behind the structure. They're not interacting with the wave action. They're perpendicular landward. And you can see that clearly on our plan section, which is on page S100A. They're a necessary design feature in order to protect the integrity of the structure. I don't think anybody in this room wants to see anybody build something and then have it fail because simple, basic engineering design was not followed.
where is S100?
Very last page.
Right here.
You said S100A?
Yeah, that's it.
It's right here.
So that retaining, that, what is that, a vinyl retaining structure? That's about 15 feet?
Yeah, it's about 15 feet, that's correct. And that's to prevent what we call flanking. So the water, if the water gets around the corner, it will erode the soft sand, and the rock is resting on the sand because the whole structure is a gravity structure. As the sand is eroded away, then the rocks will collapse where the sand used to be and what is now air. So, I mean, they're a very important design feature, and, you know, this is not a static rock revetment. I can't stress that enough. And if you read DeLandro Andrews' report, they'll say, we recommend a static rock revetment on this site. But in light of the fact that the board has requested that we examine a cobble beach, they have done precisely that. And their calculations match exactly the calculations supplied by the authors of the paper, Mark. I'll send you the email that he sent me today.
Aaron, can you explain the last page, the steel sheet pile front view? It eludes me completely.
Oh, I'm sorry, on the.
It's S102 in the big,
I was
S102.
looking at the letter. Yeah, so that is, those are, oh yeah, it shouldn't say steel, it's PVC. They labeled it
So I
wrong.
was confused by
Yeah,
the
it is
reference to
confusing.
vinyl.
It's vinyl, it's PVC.
It's a what, this is the side, these are the sides?
Yeah.
And
This is
why
what-
does it say steel? Just,
Because the
it
engineer.
says steel all over the place.
It shouldn't, we'll have that corrected. It's definitely PVC. If you see it on the plan, oh, it does say steel on the plan. I don't know why they did that, but it's not. It's definitely vinyl. It's exactly what you see on bulkheading. It's the same PVC. We'll have that corrected. If you look on the previous plans, it all says PVC. I don't know why they made a mistake on this one. Thank you for pointing it out, though.
Why is it necessary to go so deep?
So it's called toe scour. So, you know, when, on a natural beach, when waves hit the beach, the elevation of the beach will drop. And this happens every time you have a storm. If you go after a storm, go before a storm, there's a high beach berm, go after the storm, it's way down, multiple feet. And that's based upon the wave height. So based upon that wave height, the toe of the structure has to be buried deep enough that it can't be undermined. So these structures, they fail in three mechanisms. Undermining of the toe, where the beach drops below the level of the stone, and then the stone just spills out because there's nothing holding it. Or overtopping, where the structure is overtopped, water gets behind the structure by going over it and erodes the sand behind it that is holding it on an angle. Or flanking, as I described earlier, where the water gets around the side of the structure, erodes the sand. Once the sand is eroded, that is the support for the gravity structure, then the structure will fail. So, yes.
No, go ahead, finish your thought, I'll ask.
So those are the three mechanisms of a structure failure. And that's why the toe is buried to that depth, based on the wave height.
This is a shift, but do you think that what they designed here is more protective of the downdrift beaches?
Yeah. Yes, I do, because the material is dynamic. It's not static. I still believe that the revetment would have not had an adverse impact on the adjacent or downdrift properties. And I will say that in this case, this design is specifically to move. The whole thing is about moving. That's why I went through the whole explanation of the end numbers. It's how big is the wave, how big is the rock, and what's the density of the rock. These are physical factors.
Well, that's why you have such big rocks, though, is to make it move less, right?
Well, we have a gradation of rocks so that a bunch of them move pretty much all the time. Some of them move some of the time, some of them move very rarely. That's why you have a blend of everything as opposed
What's
to.
the percentage of each?
It's about a third, and a third.
Is that reflected in this report? The mix of the stones?
No, I don't believe it is, but that is, if you'd like it to be referenced, it'll be referenced, but that is the standard.
When you say move, we're talking move, they'll move a little bit, jostle one way or the other. They're not moving any kind of distance.
Oh, they move.
They're not going to move down the beach
Sure they will.
to the neighbors
Yep,
and on and on.
yep. So go to the end of North Sea Road. At the end of North Sea Road, the town highway department has been dumping cobble there before they just fixed and built a ramp. They were dumping cobble there for a decade. Look to the left, and you'll see that cobble is strewn 100 yards down the beach, and that stuff is this big.
So over time, what's left of the,
Well, isn't there a bulkhead to the west of that?
Yep,
Well,
But
back to
that's,
you-
but the rocks are moving based upon the waves that are hitting them.
Right.
The rocks that are 100 yards away are not being impacted by a bulkhead.
Back to your project here. Your revetments, in my understanding, make this a static structure.
I don't understand.
Well, how can any of these rocks or stones move if you have that revetment coming out, holding both ends?
Return?
Pardon?
Return.
Return, I'm sorry, return.
Well, the returns are on the back side of the structure.
I see on this diagram, it looks like you have a hardened structure coming out on both sides of the, that.
It goes in 15 feet.
No, look where the 15 feet starts. It might be a foot into it. There's just a small amount of overlap.
Not here.
So that's going to enable those rocks to dissipate to the side?
If you've ever been to the Prue site, which is a gabion, it's the same size cobble. And if you go to, what's the development just to the south of that, the whole beach, the gabion baskets were broken open, and that rock is strewn down the beach for 100 yards. This stuff moves, and it moves a lot.
How long do you think this will last?
Not that good. I think we'll do an excellent job. As I said before, if the neighbors got on board, it would do really, really well. These structures, properly designed and maintained, will easily last 30 years.
But not 60 feet.
60 feet, we're going to have to replenish the rock. It's going to move. Rock is going to move, period, full stop. It's,
Right.
I don't know how else to express it. It's dynamic for a reason, just what the word says. And that's what we were asked to do, that's what we did, and I think we have exhausted every possible avenue here. And listen, we're happy to exhaust them, and we're happy to come up with this answer. If you remember, we could have been here discussing a rock revetment, but the applicant said no. Let's compromise. I'm not going to get as good as I really want, but I'm going to get something, and I'm not going to injure my neighbors, and we're going to move forward. Let's move forward.
Well, for what it's worth, I did a little research, and I'll say this, although I cannot vouch for its accuracy because it was AI. And quite frankly, I don't know enough about it to have confidence or not. So it was just something that I did, and I asked, what is the speed of water near Willie's Pond when there's a nor'easter of 40 miles an hour? And the answer came up as 8 feet per second. That goes, and it's gone. There is a lot of water movement here. That's why it's taking so long to get to this place. It's not an easy solution. And it's not a solution that, it's a solution that's gonna take a lot of money, probably, and probably not a lot of longevity. It's a problem. We really need something bigger than this. When I say bigger than this, I mean a bigger vision than this, more than just one homeowner, and maybe something out in the water. But we're very restricted on what we can do here as the Conservation Board. It's a big dilemma. Usually, when we get to a place like this, we have some level of confidence between the applicant, the public, and the board that we're honing in on something that makes a lot of sense. Let's go ahead and do that. We may be there, but it's not easy.
Well, if it was easy, somebody else would be doing it. That's what I always say. But, listen, when it comes to this, I think we have to be a bit dispassionate and say, what does the science and engineering tell us? As opposed to what we might like or what we might think or what prejudice we have that we don't even know we have. And that's the way that we've approached this cobble beach berm design. What are the physical forces? What's the best way to deal with them? How do we make this thing dynamic, but it's stable enough that it doesn't disappear in the first storm? We all know placing sand on this beach is not going to work unless you're doing it every day, and nobody's doing that. We all know that the Suffolk County Department of Public Works is going to dredge whenever they feel like dredging for whatever reasons that they have to dredge. And that could be every year, it could be every 10 years. We don't know, we can't count on that. We know that vegetation and core logs are not going to hold it. If they were, I would be recommending them, because I don't want to come back here and keep talking about this any more than you do. I'm very confident that this is a reasonable solution for this property. It's not what I would recommend, number one, but based upon what I've learned from the engineers and my own personal experience, I believe that this is reasonable for the site. I think it's going to have to be maintained. There's no question. They're going to lose material, and they're going to have to add to it. And it says right on the drawings, they reserve the right to repair or restore this in the event of a storm, because it's going to be damaged. It's designed to be damaged. It's designed to be damaged. So, I could repeat myself all night, but I'll kind of stop doing that.
One last question. Do you think, with your experience and your research, if Willie's Pond on it were to be dredged again, or perhaps the next time it's dredged, and if the sand spoil is placed in that general area like it has in the past, do you think there's any wisdom in, at that point, adding more cobble to the newly formed beach?
Like
For
to the beach itself?
To the beach, the thought I have is, your structure is relatively short, because that's all the space you've got.
Right.
But if you had more space, you could have it probably more gentle and go out further.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, that would be better if we could go farther out, but we don't, or farther back, we just don't have the room. But I think the slope that we've identified, which is 1 to 1.5, works. It'd be nice to have a more gentle slope, but we don't have it. But this is going to function.
Okay, thank you. Is there some, sure, Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. Jennifer Tempesta, 35 East Beach Drive. I think you know me by now. So thank you so much for your patience and for listening. I just wanted to say a few things in response to what Marty said and just in view of where we are today. So this is our 5th substantive hearing. We've been here 5 times for hours, and in between those meetings, we have done everything that the board has asked. We've hired engineers multiple times. We have evaluated practicable alternatives to the extent we can. Aram has gone through every possible alternative, and we've submitted at least a foot in depth of reports to you on these matters. We've evaluated this with engineers, with the experts. With all due respect to Marty, he's not an engineer. He needs to, we hope, he will look at these engineering reports and take them seriously. I wanted to just make a comment on what Marty said about the site. Of course, you're all welcome to visit the site at any time. I think that's a requirement, and I've mentioned that before. But I will say it's gotten even worse since the July 4th storm. I did send 2 pictures to Karina. I had shown you last time a picture of a tree. Now it's completely uprooted. It's hard to tell from the photos, but the tree is coming out of the ground. The vegetation is not staying to protect our land. It's getting destroyed, even these large trees. So we need help. We need something else to protect it. The vegetation isn't doing it. And as a reminder, our septic system is kind of like next to that tree. We need to protect that. And we're offering to put in a new septic system. We don't want to endanger the bay in any way. We need to address this now. As I said, we hired an engineer multiple times, really have done all the analyses, and we invite you to look at those reports in more detail. Everyone talks about the dredging. We think the dredging is amazing, but it doesn't last. We know it doesn't last, and we don't know when it's going to happen again. So that just can't be part of this solution. Hopefully in the future it happens, and we could think of something great to do then with the community, and we do want to work with the community to try and make this work now. But that's not an interim solution that's going to help us today. I will also just want to say that we compromised already multiple times. We, at the last hearing, said, okay, we won't do the revetment. We're going to compromise in this cobble beach so that we could reach a resolution. And we also said we want to stick with the size of the house that we proposed. Those were the things we said last time. And I thought we were getting traction from you all on that. I hope we still are. And I just want to reiterate, we've been compromising. With respect to Marty's comments on the size of the house, if you look at our neighbors, the neighbor right next to us, their house is at least 7,000 square feet. My neighbor, John Petrillo, has a huge house just 2 doors down. So I would say that if the size of the house that we propose gets rejected, I cannot imagine how that's not arbitrary and capricious. I just can't. Just moving to my conclusion here. As I said, we've been here enough. We've given you all of the information. We've spent a lot of time and energy on this. We respectfully request that you close the record after this hearing. And of course, if Marty would like to submit something in writing, that he could do that within, let's say, 10 days. But we are asking you, close the record, let's be done with this and move on. Thank you.
Carolyn?
You know this guy.
This water may go down. Good evening, esteemed members of the Conservation Board. Thank you for all the hard work you do. Thank you for your public service. I too sat there as a councilwoman upon endless hearings at the same exact table as you. My name is Carolyn Zank. For the record, I'm an attorney representing John Petrillo and Vicky at 31 East Beach Drive. There are several doors down drift from any proposed structure or engineering solution. I'm certified in ocean and coastal law. I'm also certified in environment and natural resources law. And I was actually the point person when I was on the town board for the Coastal Erosion Hazard Area Act. That is an act that has everything to do with erosion and coastal structures. And I heard hours and hours of testimony on that. I reviewed the new plans for the cobblestone bluff. They came in around 10:45 today, which was not really fair to the public. They didn't have a chance to review it. I would say in hearing the proposal and looking at it, it really, last time it was like a cobblestone beach, and you got a picture of like little rocks on the beach, and then it's turned into a cobblestone bluff. And it really just, in my opinion, is a rock revetment in disguise, and I think Marty just said that. The applicant has just said 1/3 of it is immovable. The board members are quite sharp. They're talking about the vertical sections that are sticking out into the water. If that thing is held in place, if the land is held in place, as sea level rises, as it erodes, it'll stick into the water, and I believe catch sand on its updrift sides. One thing to remember here, I keep on hearing, let's stop erosion. Let's save that land. Acts of God, the board is not liable for acts of God. That's a beautiful thing. You don't it's sad sometimes you don't have to stop for that accident. That's why they have Good Samaritan laws. But you're not liable for acts of God. The erosion is an act of God. Flooding is an act of God. It's not your job to save the Tempesta house, although I think that we can, but that's not what the wetland law is all about, and that's not what the coastal erosion hazard area is all about. The Landreau Andrews engineering admits the proposed cobble bluff geometry maintains the same crest and toe elevations as the previously designed revetment. So again, the picture that I had in my mind last time was more like Marty was talking about, and now suddenly we have this huge structure on the beach. We're talking 7 feet high again. We're talking about stones that are 14 inches in diameter. Picture I guess it would be a beach ball full of cement out there. So these are pretty large stones. and a lot of them aren't moving. I did amend my ocean and coastal law report to include shore hardening structures in general. They're just, in my opinion, they are just generally a bad idea. With sea level rise, it's going to get worse and worse. And we can't just save things for 10 years, 20 years, 30. We have to really think, 250 years, like the age of this country. I have amended this to talk about shore hardening structures in general. I consider this a shore hardening structure. I've seen other things too that are semi-hard, like geotubes. You get some bad results on the beach with those too. What to do? First of all, I want to applaud the board. Your questions are amazing. You're a hot bench, they would call you in the Supreme Court, a hot bench. You're asking great questions and very astute, and I deeply appreciate that. I also appreciate the board's willingness to try to compromise, and I see you're trying so hard. But I think we have to keep several guiding principles in mind for a solution, and the good ones. It's old wisdom. One is the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing twice and expecting a different result, which I'll get into. The second is my rights end at your nose. The third is, and since I run a mediation center, the best solution is a win-win solution. So how can we get that? The cobble berm, in my opinion, like the rock revetment, is at other people's expense. And I believe it's also going to be at your expense because, again, acts of God, no liability. You start messing around with the coast with engineering solutions and all that, and they don't work, and the rocks hit someone's house because there's a velocity or there's erosion to scour, there's vertical easements to the beach that give people the opportunity to walk there. There's multi-million-dollar liabilities on that beach if this thing doesn't work. I always like the other adage, err on the side of caution, conservation, to be conservative. I think conservative is the way to go. I know I wouldn't want that liability if I was this board, and I don't think you have to have it. Why is the proposed cobblestone berm insanity? Maybe my friend here could produce a picture for me, which I have number 4. Can you put photograph 4 up? Which is this photograph, by the way, for the audience? Okay, so this is the spit of land. Down here is Tout Point. You can see how wide the beach is down here, and you can see it is eroding in this area. We have Tempesta property here, and you can see the beach is narrower. Why did that happen? Gee, number one, you have a bulkhead shore hardening structure. What's it doing? The sand is coming from Woolly Pond trying to get around the point. This gets in the way. The sand can't get down to the Tempestas. Number two, there's a bulkhead that government approved up to the north. And they're holding their backyard there. So what happens? The sand is trying to, the literal drift is from Woolly Pond this way. Everybody agrees down the coast. This property gets in the way, the backyard, because somebody allowed a shore hardening structure. And the sand can't get past, and they're holding the backyard in place. You have 2. 3, you got the rock revetment over here, again from Woolly Pond. Remember the woman last week? She was better than me by far. She was talking about the beautiful beach that used to be there, that this rock revetment destroyed. You have that. And then updrift from the Tempestas, you have number 5. You have a dock sitting right into the water. When I take a walk up here on this beautiful beach, and I go there, the public easement where the public's allowed to walk what they own is up to mean high tide. That's the seaweed line. It's generally here. So you can walk from Tout Point and go up. And then when you get to the dock, what happens? The public land is under the dock. For the public to continue down the beach, they have to crawl under the dock. One thing Mr. Hamilton just pointed out to me was that the dock proposed is right in the teeth of the bay. So we're going to have another situation with docks sitting out on the public beach. I have to emphasize that all this talk, conserve the land, da da da. As an ocean and coastal lawyer, I'll tell you for a fact, the downdrift property owners have the right to the sand. If this thing sticks out in the water, which I believe it will, and catches sand on the updrift side, and starves the Petrillo house, and it falls into the sea, I think there's a liability. If you just let erosion happen and do a few things, there's no liability. So again, definition of insanity. Trying the same thing and expecting a different result. These have both failed. These shore hardening structures are causing the problem. Our expert agrees they're causing the problem. You don't You shouldn't be insane twice. And this is certainly partially a shore hardening structure. So let's talk about the stakeholders. Because I want to win, 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 okay? That's what I would like to see here. So, stakeholders. The Tempestas, and I give them a lot of credit for trying, I really do. And I don't blame them for wanting to protect their home. I get it. The Conservation Board, liabilities that you have, et cetera. Also your reputation. I know for myself, I want to be known as the person who saved Southampton's beaches. That's what I want my legacy to be. And I have that legacy in the Coastal Erosion Hazard Area Act, and I'm very, very proud of that. And I'm hoping that your legacy would be saving these beaches. Then you have the wildlife as a stakeholder, because pretty much the intertidal zone will disappear between the bay and the whatever rock wall you have, or semi-hard structure. So that's a stakeholder. Then the public. What does the public have at stake? That's such a beautiful walk that when you ask anybody in life, like, what do they love? I love to walk down the beach. I love to put my towel down. I love to watch the birds. I love to swim. I love to launch my boat. Give me my paddleboard. That's what you have from Tower Point to the southwest up until you get to the crazy shore hardening structures up here. So you can see there's a domino effect starting to happen, and it's happening from the north and going south. And that's the real concern here. And I think the chairman is very correct that this is bigger than this board. This town needs to be doing something more profound. Probably doing something like helping people like the Tempestas, who, by the way, are willing to knock down their house and then build this really expensive house in this very dangerous area. If it was me, and I'm not telling them what to do, and knowing what I know, I would go, I'm going to go to the Community Preservation Fund. I'm going to ask the town to buy my lot. And then, you know what, I'm going to take that little house that I want to knock down anyway, because I don't obviously care about it. I'm going to sell that, make some more money. And then I'm going to build my house, not here in the teeth of the bay, and invest all that money and get myself destroyed, which is going to happen. Their own experts have admitted sea level is rising, and the amount is kind of scary. So CPF, buy the lot, full market price. I can tell you, every week when I was a councilwoman, I spent $1 million a week. And I would buy a lot like that, not only for market value, I would buy it for 110%. Why? Because as the esteemed chairman said, this problem is bigger than us. And really, at the end of the day, you got to move up, you got to move back. The beauty of this lot, compared to some, is a place to move back to. The board is really going to be hard-pressed when there's no more place to move back to. You don't have that situation yet. So, what would constitute a win-win-win-win solution for this board? So let me start with how much I support some of the things that the Tempestas are doing. I'm going to start with that. They deserve a lot of credit for moving their septic system away from the water. It's 2 feet from the water, moving it back. God bless them. I say yes, let them do it. They deserve a lot of credit, modernizing the septic system, moving it way back. Yes, I say yes. They want to knock down the old house, which is 1 story and in the teeth of the bay. I say yes. Okay. They want to knock down the existing shed, which is behind the house, but if you knock it down, you can move back further. Yes. Give them more room to move back. They want to build a new house. Yes. You should enjoy your new house. They want to double the size. Very forgotten in these hearings. It's always acting like it's all on 1 story. It's not. If this was the square footage here of the original house and I build again, I've doubled my living area. Let the Tempestas, I support them. Let them have double their living area. Support, support, support. Finally, the most important thing, this is where all the coastal experts agree, the best solution that saves the beach, saves the board from liability, saves everybody, saves the wildlife, saves the coast and the intertidal zone, is going up on pilings. Also not emphasized enough here. The Tempestas are asking to go up on pilings. Remember Aram's picture a while ago? They were like, oh, this failed. Look, they're up on pilings. It failed. And the land all washed away. No, it didn't fail. If those houses were at ground level, they would have all gone into the drink. But they weren't at ground level. They were elevated. And it's the elevation that will save the Tempestas more than anything else. If they want to stay on this very constrained lot, I would get rid of it and I would build someplace else. But that's not here nor there. So what else would I support? We talked about the moving beach and this and that. Sand is a beautiful thing. What's forgotten here, and it's very strange to me as an ocean and coastal lawyer, people forget. These lots are different. The property lines are very different. You buy it originally, say, like this dais. As the ocean comes in, maybe, say I had, an acre here. If it comes in and it erodes, by law, I have a lesser lot. Okay, that's really important. So again, it's not your job to keep the lot lines the same, because acts of God are taking place. And the ocean and coastal law principle is as it erodes from the one, the property line's reduced. And if someone down the beach gets that sand, they get the sand. So the beauty of sand, even though, it doesn't solve anything, it's going to wash away. No. The beauty of sand from a liability perspective is when I bring sand to my beach and it goes to my neighbors, I did them a favor. Versus the water washes off my bulkhead and creams them. Versus, gee, it's not a 15-year storm, because I think they only counted for a 15-year storm. It's a 100-year storm. And the water velocity, as you said, comes flying in. The rocks go splatting around, maybe into people's houses. There's a lot of problems there. I would support sand if they want to bring more sand in. The vegetation, I think, is helping. I've showed you pictures last week with the Phragmites. It has the special roots and all that. More planting, Chuck Hamilton has recommended in his report, that would help. So, again, a win-win. I want the Tempestas to win by having all that. And what's beautiful about the board's decision, see, because they talked a lot about liability, the board's not going to say no. They're going to say yes to the septic, yes to the house, yes to the new construction, yes to moving back, yes. But there's enough evidence in the record, and there's enough evidence in the record, I believe, to show negligence if the board does something different. It's unknown what's going to happen out there. Do you really want yourselves on the line for an unknown engineering solution? Because I can tell you, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell my client to support it. I wouldn't. The thing that's interesting here, too, is this, all this complaint about I'm in danger, it's flooding and all that. But what's interesting, the Tempest is actually, they built the house to go closer to the water. The deck is closer to the water in those proposals. They made it bigger. This is called self-imposed hardship. Again, I wouldn't just stick them with the small little one-story house. I wouldn't do that. Let them double the size. But as Marty said, move back, move up. And for their own good, I certainly, in what I've seen on that beach again, and I wouldn't pull it up right now because it takes too much time, but the deck is on the beach now. So I don't think the Tempestas are doing themselves any favors when they put the deck right behind this proposed structure. I think it's going to end up on the beach, wash away. Why not have a beautiful balcony on your second floor? That's how I would do it if I was going to stay there at all, which I wouldn't stay there. I would sell it to the town. So again, my rights end at your nose. These proposals are uncertain. The rights don't end at the nose. And the other thing that seems to be lost, and I was alarmed when I talked about the public trust doctrine last week and what happens to the public beach with these things. The other thing is, the seaweed line along the beach as you walk down the beach? Do you know the public owns that up to mean high tide? Own it. Title. So as the water comes in and the seaweed line moves shoreward, the public land migrates. So fascinating. Migrates. Unless you put a 1/3 completely hard structure, which they've admitted, semi-hard, in the way. When you do that, that area between the water and the seaweed line, maybe it goes from 20 feet, 15, 10, 5. And you can already see it happening. In these northern areas, it's already happening. You can see in the northern areas, the public trust doctrine, here it is. The public walks here. But up here, I took a walk. I'm walking on someone's front lawn. That's not right. Here, a bulkhead. Suddenly, what should have been the public property is privatized because there's a wrong legal concept that the applicant somehow has the right to get around acts of God. They don't. My client is entitled to the sand. Remember the groin case? Army Corps of Engineers? The groins, what they did, they stick vertically out into the sea, just like these little return things that they have. They put them all out there, and the littoral drift is from Montauk west. They accumulated sand on their eastern side. What happened downdrift? They all fell into the sea. What was the liability? Riddle me this, AI this. I want you to look up the liability of the Army Corps of Engineer for putting out shore hardening structures, which accumulated sand, just like this will do, sticking out into the sea. It was hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think they have to keep on bringing sand in. Again, acts of God, you're safe, your liability's safe. And let me talk about the liability for a second. The Tempestas have threatened to sue you if they don't get what they want. It's sad. When you would give them a lot. Article 78, I've done 20 of them. The only thing that happened, it'll look like this. Board, stop on the hand. Oh, you didn't have a public hearing for the new proposal. Be reversed on that. Oh, you didn't do a secret determination. You could be reversed on that. Pretty much the worst thing that can happen to you on that is you get reversed, or they get to bill something. That's Article 78. I've given you a notice of claim, because I don't know what's going to happen. I have to protect my client. Since it's unknown, notice of claim means I'm letting you know. If something happens to my client's $1 million home and it falls into the sea, we have preserved our right to sue. The liability is different. What do you got? You got down to your property owners, multi-millions of dollars down that coast. Again, you start getting that cumulative effect, multi-million dollars. And in addition, you have vertical easements. You know, these people here have vertical easements to the beach, these landlocked people. Gee, what would I pay for a house that's landlocked and I can get to the beach versus what would I pay for a house I can't get to the beach? If these vertical easements are wiped out by these structures and stones and craziness, and how about the poor handicapped people who want to get to the beach? Forget them. I believe there's more multi-million dollars liability because you've wrecked the vertical beach access, the public rights. On wetland values, the town wetland law talks about trying to gain more wetlands, not lose them. So when you're losing the intertidal zone to whatever, with all the benefits Marty has said, that's not helping anything. This morning, I woke up, I was so sickened this morning. You know why I was sickened? Because I was watching Channel 12 News, and I could weep, and I could weep right now in front of you. I love the water. I'm a surfer. I love to swim. I was a champion swimmer. This morning, what do I hear on Channel 12 News? Gee, there's so much flooding that it's all washed into the water. And you people, you can't swim. You can't swim. Oh, we've closed off this food resource, the shellfish, because the water's so close to being so polluted. We're on the brink. We're on the brink. You're doing the best you can, but as Chairman said, this is going to take something big. So the more you wipe out these intertidal zones, the less habitat you have, the less you create wetlands. We can't swim, we can't fish, we can't clam, we can't take a walk down the beach. The public deserves to be protected. I'm sickened by this kind of news, and I'm going to do what I can. I have donated 25 hours to this pro bono. Why? That's like $8,000 worth of work, by the way, to appear before you, because I think these things are incredibly destructive, incredibly unknown. I believe the town can do better. I think they need a buyout proposal to help people, and I think they need to be very generous with people with the Tempesta so they do better. By leaving a property, they don't even want that house. A lot of people really love their house. So, in conclusion, I believe you can already say yes to a million things here. I think you should stay away from the engineering solutions. I think the liabilities are great here, and I wouldn't want to risk my neck on these unknowns. Thank you.
Carol, I have a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Has your client experienced any erosion in front of his house in the last 5 years?
Has who?
Has your client experienced any erosion in front of his house in the last 5 years?
I haven't looked at the errors. I'll leave that to Chuck Hamilton. He's more knowledgeable than me. I can only say that what seems to be happening is, and quite frankly, I got to give John Petrillo a lot of credit because of the amount of money he spent, the experts he's brought to the board, and frankly, the record that's been built. If you decide against shore hardening structures, you know who's going to save you? John Petrillo and his investment, because he's invested a lot to bring this information to you. What surprised me too is, and which is kind of a
So you don't know if he has any?
Yeah, I'm going to answer your question because I'm going to make a point. What's amazing to me is that a shorefront property owner who may eventually want a rock revetment or any kind of crazing of engineering solutions has come on the conservation side. I don't see that a lot. A lot of people want to hedge their bets because they might want to do it too. The only thing, it's going to just have a chain effect. So Chuck will know better than me. I think that's a fine question to ask. So God bless you for your work, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate this hot board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Someone else?
I'm going to introduce Chuck, and then afterwards I'm going to speak a little bit, but I just wanted to give qualifications. If I can. Chuck Hamilton will be speaking for me about the environmental studies that he's produced. I'd just like to give his qualifications because he's an eminently qualified environmentalist who deserves to be trusted, and he deserves to be heard. What he says is of great importance. For 34 years, he has been a regional supervisor of natural resources and regional emergency management coordinator for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. He's been the chief technical administrator overseeing regulatory development of New York's coastal shorelines and a supervisor of the marine regulatory programs. His degree is in the State University of New York, Syracuse in forestry, Bachelor of Science in Marine Biology, postgraduate studies in fisheries biology. I have 5 pages of qualifications. I'm not going to read them all. I will provide them for the record. And with that, I'd like to introduce Chuck Hamilton.
Thank you, John. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd like the opportunity to discuss what I found in my review of this particular project. The good news is I'm not going to read my report. But I will answer questions about that report, of course. What I did in this particular today, at about 2:30, I received an email from Carolyn Zink about a new plan that had come before the board this morning about 10:45, and we received it about 2:30. So I had an opportunity to do a review of these plans. But I could say I have a long history with this particular shoreline. I remember when the Bassins came in to build that bulkhead, on the point there, back in the 1970s, 1980s. And then we went to the rock revetments and things like that. And it's always interesting to me because I spent over 34 years managing the regulatory programs, being involved in tidal wetlands, coastal shore projects and things like that, that I hear, so many years later, I'm hearing, engineering designed for an environmental project. And I'm saying, how did I get into this? Because I'm really a guy who's educated in environment, but at the end of the day, we do have to sometimes make engineering decisions. But the key thing that's changed in the regulatory aspects, protecting wetlands and things like that, is nature-based solutions. We have found out over time, over the last 40 years, that these engineered, designed projects, they don't work. They scour the beaches, they scour the wetlands, they scour the habitat. So when we hear nature-based solutions, that's a new thing. For some of us who've been in the business a long time, you guys have all been in the business a long time too. What is a nature-based solution? What it really is? So you heard Marty's version of what he thinks is applicable for this area. And the first thing when I hear nature-based solutions, I say to myself, what's working there now? What is there right now? I think about East Marin. I think about Orient, where you go down there by the ferry that goes through London. You see that pea gravel beach there. It's always steady. It's always solid. You see the cobble, the pea gravel and cobble gets pushed up by Mother Nature when we get those northeast storms through Gardeners Bay and things like that. Then I think about this particular beach, Woolly Pond, and I think about, why has it been so natural all these years? It's because we've been doing a lot of dredging there. If you look at the photographs that I gave you over time, you can see how the mouth has changed. We've hardened it and things like that, the big shoals. But the bottom line is we've been nourishing that beach. And if you think about nourishing beaches, think about all the beaches that we nourish on Long Island, in the inner bays, on the ocean, things like that. That's a nature-based solution that we've been doing for many, many years. And it's been successful at this location. Do we have erosion here? Yes, we do. Why? It's sand. Look at the exposure. Look at the fetch. It's all going to wash away. But we've been able to maintain a stable shoreline. In my career, not one home was damaged or lost in this particular reach of Peconic Bay. Then when you actually look at it, you step back and look at it, there's a big barrier island here. What a great barrier island. If we start scarring out that beach, what's going to happen to that barrier island? We know what happens to barrier islands when they get narrow, they get overwashed. So we have to do a solution that makes sense, that's permanent. And I always told my guys when they were doing technical reviews, do something right. We're not allowed to make mistakes. When we're in this business, and you're in the same business that I was for many, many years, we're not allowed to make mistakes. What happens to our mistakes? They're there forever. So let's not make a mistake on this particular project. And I was so pleased to hear that, the rock revetment project wasn't one that wasn't going to go anywhere in this particular review. It's also, I've talked to people at the department, they're opposed to this project for revetment too, for many reasons. And my report talks about the scour and other things that happened in the area. So I did this review today. The first thing when you do technical review, you say, how are they going to do it? Well, what are they going to do, and how are they going to do it? So I look at this project, and I looked S100A. So I look at it, and I see Apollo Rock out in front, which is, we'll call the cobble berm. Great, cobble berm. When I think cobble berm, I think? Something low, okay? That's what berms are. When you think about beach berms and things like that, they're always low. When you get that wave attack, they'll push that sand up, push that cobble up on the beach. That's what a cobble berm is. This structure, if you go to S101, is that the tallest berm I've ever seen. It's 11.5 feet tall, from top to bottom, 11.5 feet. That's not a berm. That's a big, tall structure. And then, when I look at the structure, as Aram said, we're building a structure to elevate minus 2.5. Mean low water is 1.8. What does that mean? We're going to build almost a foot below mean low water elevation. So you got this beach coming down like this. We're going to be building way below here. So when you actually look at this plan, but they don't really show you. They show you mean high water coming across, but they don't show you where mean high water hits. It hits right at the apex of the angle where it flattens out. That's mean high water. So what does that mean? I got to excavate down the beach, that beach, to minus 2.5, foot below low water. So you got to do it. First, you got to do it low tide. You do your impact analysis, but you got to dig it up. When you start looking at it, guess what? We're going to be digging up to 12 feet offshore to install the structure. You just don't take these things and plop them here. If this is where the rock wall starts, and this is high water, we're going to have to dig out 12 feet, excavate this out. So that intertidal flat that's in Peconic Bay will be dredged for 63 feet, or about 720 square feet. Doesn't say that in the application. Doesn't say that in the DEC application. In fact, there's no Army Corps of Engineers or Department of State application to excavate the bay to install the structure. So that's the first thing I do when I look at impact analysis. How is it going to be done? So then, but they don't show this on this plan. And when you look at a plan, guess what this plan doesn't show? This is number 100. Remember, we're building a house, a little bigger house? That whole thing in green, that's called a deck. Okay, and if you had an opportunity to review these plans, in green is actually the new deck. And that new deck, so I'm building this berm with this rock wall, 11 feet high. Then I'm going to have sand coming down here with beach grass. And guess what? There's the house, and here comes the darn deck. So that deck is going to be overhanging the back of that berm, which has beach grass planted for stability to the structure. Then you think about it. That's north, that's south, here's the house, here's the deck. Wow. How much sun do you think that backside of that berm is going to get? How about I tell you little to none? Because the house is going to shade it, and also the deck. So stability of the structure that's being built or proposed is not going to be there with the sand at all, with beach grass. And who would put beach grass on the back of a dune and put a deck over it? Through flow decking, high pay decking, whatever it's going to be. You're not going to have beach grass grow. So when I look at this plan, I say, that's not going to work. And in fact, when I look at the prior application, and I'm just going to take the Squires and Holden plan, it kind of shows a rock revetment. See a footprint there? And I kind of look at this footprint. It's pretty much the same. Oh, what's different? we went from 10-foot return with the 10-foot return on both property lines, to a 15-foot return. In fact, this structure will be 23 feet wide, about half the weight of that wall, 23, 63 feet, 11 feet high, from top to bottom. That's not a berm, that's a structure. And to do that, so when I look at this plan, I say, okay, how much fill are we bringing in? How much rock are we bringing in? What kind of specifications are on the rock? What did I hear? 8-inch, 10-inch, and 14-inch rock. Gravity-based. So gravity means you put the heavy ones on top with the little ones on the bottom, and the big ones will fall on the bottom, or you put the heavy ones on the bottom, and then you build yourself up. I don't see those specifications here. In fact, I heard a third. So it sounds to me like it's gonna be a dump of rocks on a face, on a filter cloth, and things like that. Are they will be put together now, but there's no technical specifications. So I say to this board, this plan doesn't have enough information almost to make a decision. I don't know about the amount of fill, it doesn't show the excavation, specifications, not there. And it's pretty interesting to me for a board and myself to do a review. Shows a rock wall, shows a house, but it doesn't show a sanitary system. Isn't this one whole decision we're making here? There's no sanitary system on here. Oh, yeah, so I'll look at this other plan. But shouldn't they be together so you can figure it out? You don't usually do two plans to make a decision on one permit. So when I look at the distance to high water, it shows the distance to high water here. It doesn't show a distance to high water for the new deck. The new deck is going to be seaward of the existing dwelling. So I got a house that alleges in jeopardy of concerns for flooding, concerns for erosion, and guess what? I'm gonna move my deck 12 feet closer to the water, and I'll put a rock wall here, and I'll be fine. That's not minimization. When you look at environmental review, environmental management, it's avoid impacts, minimize impacts, and then mitigate. We're not doing that, any of those three. We're making a worse situation. So when I look at that deck there, that's the wrong location. The first recommendation I'm gonna give you guys is there should be no construction any further seaward than the existing structure. That's the first thing. But then I look at this cobble berm, 11.5 feet tall. High water is elevation 4, it would be -2, 6.5 feet below high water elevation. On that beach is going to be the bottom of that structure. So one heck of an excavation. I'm going to have to alter all that. And again, that's not called avoiding impacts, it's not called minimizing impacts, it's doubling your impacts. And then when I get it on a plan that says, the applicant reserves the right to repair the structure if damaged or after failure. I'm okay with maintenance permits, I've done that many times, give a maintenance permit. But once you tell, what is failure? Because when I actually look at this design, and I think about this project, and I say, wow, so I'm gonna build this cobble berm, I'm gonna put a deck right behind it. But here's this berm right here, and I got my deck right here. When this thing failed, what do you think is gonna happen to that deck? What do you think the applicant's gonna say? What do you think the landlord at that time is gonna say? Hey, the wall just fell apart. You know, I got this thing here, I gotta build a rock revetment. That's your next step. And when you make environmental decisions, you always say to yourself, what's the next worst case situation if this doesn't work out? What's gonna happen? I have an applicant, I have an agent telling me this structure's gonna fail. Going to fail, can't tell me how much, but it's going to fail. Is it today, is it tomorrow, 6 times a year? What is it? We don't know. In fact, when was the last time we did one of these berms in New York State? In my experience, I've seen similar structures, and I'm just, because my ink's not real good on this, but this is an area called West Hampton Dunes. And these are rock walls, I'm sure you guys have seen the rock walls over in West Hampton Beach and things like that.
If you're gonna leave them with us, have to be stamped
Oh,
on, okay?
I'll do that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. You're not idiot. But that's what you're gonna see. You're gonna see a pile of rock. You know, and then I hear nature-based. It's natural. You go down that area, there's no 8-inch rock. There's no 14-inch rock. There's no 12-inch rock. It's sand and gravel and large cobble, and I say large cobble when they do the dredging. So when I hear Marty Shea tell us, you know what? And I remember when I went to the site earlier this year, and I looked at it. You know, on the east side is the area Phragmites growing, pretty much holding stuff. When you actually looked at Phragmites, you can see how the gravel was moving up, and when it hit the Phragmites, kind of stopped there. And then when it went over to the center of the property where that tree was, and you see it go up, it pushed right up, pushed the berm. And it was actually a berm, about an 18-inch berm up by the deck there, just past that tree. That's what Mother Nature will do. Mother Nature will always build that berm. So when Marty tells you he wants to put some cobble there that will build a berm, that's a reasonable solution. I think about a dune there, and I look at this, and I measured today. I was there today, and I measured from the deck to the water, and guess what? High water is still where it was from January 2025. So I hear in some of the testimony, we're losing 4 or 5 feet a year. Yeah, there's erosion there, but right now that property's at a piece of it's stability. It's pretty stable right now. For some reason, I can't tell you why, but it hits that scour area, it just hits there, it's kind of stable right now. Does it get flooded? Of course it's going to get flooded because it's low lying. But is it pulling back anymore? No. And then I heard testimony today about, oh, looks like some natural rock there. Nada. Fellow next door took some rock this big and put it right on the property line. It's not natural. Rocks don't get piled up naturally, not in the Peconic Bay. So when I actually look at this structure and I said, you know what it is? I've heard terminology. I'll tell you what it is. My professional opinion. This is one heck of a solid fill. This is a solid fill groin, okay? You know most groins, when you build them, they're rock, so high, maybe 15, 20 foot wide, 8 foot high. This thing is 63 feet wide, 23 feet deep. Oh yeah, and it's got these returns on the side. Let's talk about how returns work, okay? This is the structure. You guys are in the bay. When that water's coming here, it's going to hit that berm. The rocks are going to shake and move places. But when it hits this return, guess what? It's going to hit there. It's going to accelerate erosion right to the east, or to the, I guess, to the updrift side, and it goes the other side. It's going to do the same thing. Let me get the direction over there, right here. Thanks. But bottom line is, those 15-foot returns, they're going to have scour to both properties, on both sides, guaranteed. Because why? It's not going to happen on high tide. It's going to happen storm event. I already heard Aaron say we're going to have scour there. I can guarantee you're going to have accelerated scour erosion on both sides of those steel bulkheads. It's steel. It says steel. Doesn't say vinyl. It says steel. 20-foot steel. That's deep. That's big. And I don't know what the vinyl's going to be, but somehow we went from vinyl to heavy stone. And that was an engineer's decision. That engineer didn't make a mistake. He made a decision. If they're going to do a soft porous wall like this, you know what? Better harden up the sidelines. Better harden up both property lines. That's what he did. But if you look at that property again, I got the Phragmites holding the shoreline. I got a couple Bacchus shrubs over on the one side there, holding things. And if you look at that vegetation, it's holding on. What's the best solution? Next time they dredge and build that beach, you ought to build a big dune up there. A dune that when you get hit with erosion is the sand that replenishes the beach, or that area. That's what needs to be done. I looked at this property over all those photos, aerial photos over historic photos, and guess what? No one ever planted beach grass on this property. No one ever tried to stabilize it. Just let it wash away. Just let it wash away. They'll build it again. If you're an owner of a property that's waterfront, you have a responsibility to maintain maritime plantings to stabilize that property, not just look at the water. So when I look at this plan, it's a solid fill growing 63 feet long, 23 feet wide, and 12 feet by 63 feet of the intertidal shoals. Intertidal area is going to be dredged just to do the installation. So that's a short-term, long-term impact. But guess what? There's animals living in that benthic community that you'll lose that population when you do that dredging, guaranteed. Is there need to do that much digging? When I look at Mr. Shea's recommendation, let's put some small cobble in there, berm it up 2-3 feet high. When I get the wave action, it goes up here. And what can you do? You just replace it. But behind that cobble berm that Mr. Shea has recommended will be a sand dune that's going to have a lot of mass, going to have a lot of beach grass holding together, and will slow down erosion. Sand does erode. Dunes erode, but not as fast. And all you need is a couple good seasons, and you're in good shape. So my recommendation in this project is for this modification, this cobble berm, to deny it. to take into consideration a true nature-based solution, which is using native cobble in this area, and mound it up, plant a dune with beach grass that will be planted, it will be irrigated, and make sure it's maintained, because that's a key thing. Those pictures I gave you from West Hampton Dunes, guess what? They were all covered with sand. Every one of them when they were built. Every one of them when they got a permit had sand over them. And when those permits were issued to those people, it said, cover it with sand, put beach grass there, and maintain it. 20 years later, all I see is a pile of rocks. Then I go back and look at over historical photos over time, guess what? No one, once the sand washed away, the people just left the rocks there. And that's what I say to this board. Do you want to make a decision to make this a rocky shoreline, a rock shoreline, a rubble rock, or do you want to maintain it as a natural-based sand, gravel area that's existed for eons? That's the responsibility we have as things. As far as the house, as long as the house is no closer to the water than the existing structure, I have no objection. I object to a deck being built over the backside of a planted dune area and called it's okay. It's not okay, because that house is going to be a big shading factor in anything you plant. Think about it. It's on piles. It'll be even higher. So it'll be 37 feet high. What kind of sun do you think you're going to get there? Little to none. Let's do an environmental design that makes sense for the people of the town of Southampton, for future generations here in New York State. And the only thing I'm going to add, and I'll leave this with you too. Here's a letter from the DEC. Got a copy of it. It was about these plans on this particular project. I don't know if you had any difficulty reading these plans. I've read a few plans in my day. This is one of the most difficult plans I've had to review because the overlay and things like that, that's why you'll see the coloring. And when you actually see another agency look at it, they had the same factor. So if you had difficulty reading the plans, guess what? We're all in the same boat. These plans need to be better. They need to be in one set of plans so we can do a proper technical review. You know what? Thank you so much for your time. And any questions, please?
Couple of questions. John indicated, or I guess Carol indicated that you would be able to answer the question better if John has experienced erosion from the sand in front of his house in the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah, Sander Road's at that area, sure. Yeah.
And do you think if the Tempestuous did nothing in front of their house, that sand would continue to erode?
Well, I can tell you, in the last year and a half, there's been no erosion, okay? And right now, you get to a certain point of stability, and you start looking at the scour, because, you got to do the impact analysis of what's going on. Remember, up the mouth of the creek, you have the hard two bulkheads, and then you got a rock revetment, and then it kind of scours out a little bit, and then it's kind of hits the house next to John's, which has some erosion too. But John's area starts having less erosion. You don't see the grade dropping in the intertidal zone and things like that. So when you actually look at this structure, if I build this structure, this solid fill groin, if I build this structure, I can guarantee you that scour that's kind of stopping just just before John's house is going to extend much farther down. You do the math. It's usually three to four times the length of a structure is how much the alteration of littoral drift is. So if I'm going to build a, 23 and 15, 38 foot, you can probably expect, at least 120 to 600 feet away, you're going to see some impacts from this structure. And I think that the one thing I heard, that if you're a regulator, you never want to hear, well, if you do this, everybody should do it. We should have 1,000 feet of this. 1,000 feet of this kind of berm on a Peconic Bay beach, a natural barrier island that's been there for eons. We have horseshoe crabs and wildlife and other animals utilizing it. And we should have 1,000 feet when it's never been needed or requested. Clearly, this application is the one that we want. Somebody's trying to open the door and do another 1,000 feet of this on the shoreline, and the whole 6,000 feet at Barrier Island might be in the eyes of other people who want to do this. I cannot recommend that. That at all.
And you suggested that a solution is to continue the status quo of dredging Woolly Pond Inlet and dumping sand in that area.
Doing that, and I think it was a good suggestion of perhaps adding some cobble in that upper area. So right now, you can see where that limit of erosion is. Just think of that. So before we dredge, next time, maybe the county should consider, or the homeowners consider a general permit, or a common permit, where we just put a bunch of the cobble berms that, Marty, before it gets filled, put that cobble berm there. Put it in, fill the beach out to here, and when that beach erodes sometime in the future, that will always be in reserve to support and slow that erosion when it gets back there. To have to pick the location where it is. And I'm gonna tell you, the easiest way to do it is look at the shoreline, where it's been for the last 40 years, see where the most landward limit is, see where the most seaward limit is, and find a spot to put that cobble in there. So when we do get that sand road, we have that cobble there, which then will push up and be a natural type of berm to protect those properties. And again, the house is on pilings. You know, again, this application doesn't show how much fill is going to be brought to the site to raise the grade for the sanitary system. You know, we know we're doing an INA, but an INA has, you know, the leaching basins and things like that. Most of the one I've seen in those areas, in fact, the sanitary system I've seen in the area of that area of Colony Shores, they're all elevated. So I would have to reason to believe that this application should have how much fill to bring in, and I don't see that in the application either.
You said a cobble berm could be a solution. Would you define that?
Okay, let's talk about what a natural cobble berm is. Again, you know, and again, it's not as common here on the South Shore because we have more sand, especially that particular area. But this area has cobble when we do the dredging. That's where you're getting it, and some of the gravel based. But a cobble berm is more common, like over in East Marion, Orient, some areas of Long Island Sound. And what it is, that you got a lot of rock, and it will just push up about a couple feet high. So I would say it's not gravel. It's probably going to be stuff in the 3 to 4 inches of stone, which is excess stone. When you go to any mine, you'll see there's a whole bunch of that stone. But it's got to be native stone. When you look at the stone that's being placed here, it's not native stone. It's from Westchester. It's from Tarrytown. It's quarry stone. That's what we're going to dump here. And because why don't we use Long Island stone? Because Long Island stone's rounded. They roll even faster, you know, than anything else. When Aaron says you go down to Montauk and you see the rocks, you know why they roll, because they're natural stone. And natural stone on Long Island is rounded. The ones that we get from the quarries are angular, just as I showed you in those other pictures. So that's what you're going to see. You're going to see angular stone from the Hudson Valley. That's what you're going to see there. And that's not natural to Long Island in this area.
When you describe that, what I was picturing in my mind is something similar to what Aaron proposed. The problem is he's only got a few feet to work with. There's not a big beach in front of the Tempesta's house. So and he put a structure there that's, you said 11 feet high, whatever the numbers come out to be, that's essentially a berm. And then there's sand beyond that, and that's where the water is.
Well,
So what's the difference between what he's proposing and what you're suggesting?
what he's
should happen?
proposing is you're going down to -2.5 elevation. Elevation 9 was 11.5 feet high. That's 11-foot structure. That's a structure. A berm is usually a low-level structure. Think about berms on upland areas. They're usually, 1 to 2 feet, things like that. That's what a berm is. This is not a berm. This is a structure with a face. It's got a face and a 1 and 1.5 slope, the same slope as he had on the revetment. It's got the returns that are even longer, and you have 23 feet, 23-foot footprint and a 15-foot return. You got a big structure, and it's hanging out there on this beach. Come along, you got a beach here. Got a 15-foot return. Then I got 23-foot here, and then I got 63. So this is we're creating like a headland, for lack of a better word. When we create a headland like that, it's called a groin. It's a solid groin.
So if they put say a 3-foot berm in front of their house,
I would you could put it back behind the,
what's
there's the
that-
Phragmites is growing there. There's some
Right.
Phragmites right behind there. You could,
What's
just
gonna
in front of the
happen-
deck, you could probably put that little berm with stone, just stone.
what's gonna happen with a nor'easter where he says it'll be overtopped?
Well, it's because behind that, you're gonna have a dune. So you're gonna have a 3-foot berm, stone, and then I'm gonna have an 8-foot dune here, right?
Of sand?
So, yeah, sure, plenty, yeah.
The house is on pilings.
The house is on, and then the house behind, right here.
It's not bad.
House is on pilings. So that's your flood protection structure, is that the stone will absorb some of the energies, and the natural processes of a dune is to replenish sand. And when the dune gets eroded, it replenishes the sand, which builds that elevation up. So and if you look at nor'easters, traditional nor'easter used to be one day, not the one tide, not the 3-4 days we get now, because that's the difference now. Our erosion, on one tide you start getting the beach lower. You get 2 or 3 tides. That's when you start getting wave attack up on dunes and things like that. in this particular area, yeah, you can have it. But that doesn't mean when you give the permit, you give a permit to maintain. Just as Aaron said in this very application, he wants an application to maintain. Same thing, application to maintain the dune. That's, the department issued, the Army Corps, you guys have issued many, many permits that say, build your rock wall, build your dune, and maintain it. And just bring more sand in, that's all. Periodically be needed. But remember, in between, we're gonna be nourishing the beach. The exposure to that dune is gonna be limited over time. When you look historically at this property, you look at this barrier island, historically over time, there's been little to no erosion that causes damage to the homes or causes flooding. And then you talk about flooding, if you're talking about nor'easter, the front of the property and the road from Willie Pond, if it gets up back in there, it's gonna flood from that way too. So you're on a barrier island, flooding, is an issue, but is it flooding from the bay? It could be flooding from inside Willie Pond also. And you're not gonna stop that with the design of this wall at all. And again.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Just my comments. Just my comments today.
Yeah. And
Yeah, my back is like sitting so long.
I was in physical therapy today. They put me out of a neck thing.
Why don't you turn it like that?
Stop being so practical. I'm embarrassed. I'll be sitting on my lap. I also have to go to the pain sometime soon.
Just one copy of each, right?
I have multiple copies if you'd like me. Vicki, can you get the other folders out? I have many folders. And a great deal of time making them. Might as well pass them up and down for the board members. Mr. Ludlow, members of the Conservation Board, Mr. Marty Shea, neighbors, and friends. At the last Conservation Board meeting, at first we felt like significant progress was being made in protecting our beach at Southampton shores, because we felt that a rock revetment was not likely to be happening. Right after that became unlikely that a rock revetment would be approved, Mrs. Tempesta came to the podium and said that she would agree to not have a rock revetment provided the full-size house would be approved. That would be coupled with a cobble berm instead of a rock revetment. She added that she hoped this didn't end up in court, thereby implying that she would sue if she did not get her way. Aram, First Coastal, then spoke of varying size rocks, including 14-inch rocks that would be necessary.
I think it's for Tom.
I was very concerned that their berm would be nothing more than a rock revetment in disguise, and that's what I stated at the time. Will it be mobile and capable of shifting as a berm should be, or will it be a hardened structure serving the same purpose as a revetment? Will it have bulkheads on the sides? What we've learned, it is nothing more than a mask or a hidden revetment doing the same function as a revetment. At this point, I would like to remind the board of a petition that is now signed by 54 homeowners from Southampton Shores in opposition to any hardened structure on the beach. In particular, every single house, the owners of every single house on East Beach Drive, downdrift of the Tempesta's house, have signed the petition and are opposed to any hardening of the beach.
every single house on East Beach Drive, on the bay side of East Beach Drive. My environmental lawyer mentioned a notice of claim that was filed. That's to help protect me from damages if any structure that's built on the beach damages my property. I'd like to mention that that's not the only notice of claim that has been filed. At least 5 others have been filed, and I know of 2 more that are likely to be filed in the next several weeks, week or 2. It is up to the board to determine whether the size of the proposed house is compatible with the size of the land they own. Is it also compatible with a living beach? The proposed new dwelling is to be 40.6% of the total parcel. Mr. Hamilton feels that that is excessive and is much higher than any other proposal percentage of the house on the beach. 4 years ago, my brother and I each built a house on the bay. We had the same architect, the same plans, the same builder, but there was an exception. I had to shave off 2 feet of the front house of my plans facing the water on both levels, approximately 250 square feet totally, because I was building within the guidelines and the offsets that I needed to build within. So I built a house that was appropriate for the size of my lot. Should not the building requirements be universal, applying to everyone and not be subjected to either political pressure or a lawsuit? It would be much easier for the board to defend a lawsuit if you don't deviate from long-held standards. It is not the Conservation Board's obligation to solve the Tempestas building difficulties. It is the obligation of the Tempestas to provide a plan that meets with the Conservation Board's long-held standards. Last meeting, I demonstrated that between 2022, when the house was purchased by the Tempestas, in 2025, when the house was, when they formally proposed a rock revetment, that there has been no cumulative erosion since that time. The distance between their house and the high tide mark was identical. If anything, it was a little bit more in 2025. Mr. Ludlow asked if I have noticed any erosion on my property. The only erosion that I have noticed on my property in that period of time since I've owned it has been the erosion, has been the sand that has been deposited after the dredging. That has been eroded. But the distance between my house and the beach is pretty much the same as when I first bought my property and when I built my house. We are supportive of the Tempestas building a house. We are supportive of them raising their house. We are supportive of them adding a second floor. But the overall size of the house has to be compatible with a mobile, living, ecologically friendly beach. That's the bottom line, and upon that, we just can't deviate at all. The mandate of the board is to conserve and protect the beach and preserve the ecology. Hardened structures on the beach have always proven to be detrimental in the long term. Again, thank you for your dedication and efforts at protecting North Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak as?
Greg Curley. My mother is a co-owner of a downdrift house on East Beach Drive, 3 East Beach Drive. I'll be very brief. I just had to point out, sitting here, this is my first meeting that I've attended. I watched the last meeting on video. It's a little unseemly to request to close the record after submission at 11:30 this morning of a report that Ms. Tempesta's own expert said is highly technical, involves exacting science, and lots of research went into this. 2 whole weeks of research couldn't be completed until this morning. And then we get a request to close the record today. We've heard some expert testimony. Mr. Shea, with exceptional issues on the report. I certainly just had to point out that Ms. Tempesta getting up here and saying that we've done everything that the board has asked. No, that's not how it works when you submit a plan like that at 11:30 and then ask to close the record. And that's all. I just wanted to make sure that the panel was aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like this? Judy? Oh,
This is my first meeting as well. I'm Linda Mahoney. We live directly alongside Tempesta's house, and I appreciate the fact that, they want to go up. The fact that they want to go out, I do have an issue with, when the development initially went in, and we know that was years ago, all the houses on the bay were bungalows. And if you went out in the bay and looked in, everybody lined up, and there wasn't an issue. And so over time, the houses have gotten bigger and bigger. I understand that. But when it's causing an issue, and I know, Jen, to the right of you where Gallagher's is, I know it's a massive house. But if there's an issue with the erosion and whatnot, to exacerbate that and continue that without looking at it a little deeper does not make sense to me. And if there's going to be a berm in front of Jen's house, common sense tells me that when that water comes in, she's going to be protected, but we're on the other side, and it's going to come around and affect us. And then it's going to go down the beach and affect everybody else. And to Aram's point with what he's recommending, everybody down the beach should do the same thing. That's just maybe not the right thing to do. If it should go down the beach and everybody's not doing that and only one person is, and then there's a problem caused for everybody else, that just doesn't seem like the prudent solution. So that's kind of all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
okay. And Judy?
Judy Gallagher, 39 East Beach Drive. Just a few points. The Tempestas and Gallaghers lamented this weekend about the vegetation that we lost in the storms that, we suffered through this weekend. The Tempestas had a tree that they hoped would last, but half of the roots are out of the sand, and that tree is never going to last. We had some vegetation between us and the Tempestas, and one of the trees fell down. The grass, is dead, and it's disappointing to see that because we had hoped that would stay. We had a tremendous amount of erosion this weekend. And I hate to repeat myself, but people are talking about hardened structures and steel bulkheads. this is a porous compilation of rocks. It might move in a 100-year storm, maybe it'll move. But as we were willing to try, the Gallaghers years ago, to try and see if that would work, I believe the Tempestas are also willing. I've never seen residents so eager to try to, listen to the board's concerns and try to change their plans. I think they're to be congratulated on that stand. Also, I've talked about planting beach grass. I think that they would be very happy, as would I, to plant beach grass and to continue to plant it. If a storm caused it to die or wash away, that is something that we would always be willing to do. However, we've seen that it doesn't really keep the land there. And the last thing is, they would have to go to the zoning board to get approval of the kind of house they built. Why is so much time being spent with the conservation board about the type of house that they build? Is it not the zoning board that has the final say? I really wish that what is this, the 5th meeting? Separate the two things and let them have the approval for the house. I don't think they want it near the water. I can't get into the details of how high or whatever, but I really believe that they're willing to, make concessions in that way. And I just feel like so much time is being spent when the zoning board is the one that has the final say. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Aaron Tertunian, First Coastal, on behalf of the applicant. I'd like to be brief. Unfortunately, I can't. So, sorry about that. So, you've heard a lot of opinions tonight, and the one thing you haven't heard is an opinion from an engineer. Mr. Hamilton is a respected fisheries biologist with a lot of experience, but he's not an engineer. I'm not an engineer. Ms. Zank is a respected attorney, but she's not an engineer. So I don't think that you can accept their testimony about how things in the coastal environment function in engineering sense from their testimony. I just put that out there. And you shouldn't take it from me. You should take it from people who are actual engineers who have generated the actual plans. The other thing I heard is acts of God. Heard that about 4 times tonight. This is not an act of God. Just look at that photograph up there right now, and I know this board has, but if anybody else in the audience had read the reports from Humiston and Moore that were prepared at great expense, they identified the fact that the sand is coming in from the north and is never escaping the inlet until it's dredged. And this inlet didn't exist in 1930. It was a tidal meadow with a small tidal creek through it. It was dredged by whomever, I believe the county, and that is what created the situation we have now. This is not an act of God, this is an act of man. And our solutions, unfortunately, have to go in the same direction. We have to learn, we have to do better. We don't want to build vertical bulkheads, but we are recommending a nature-based solution. You've heard that, what we're discussing now is how high should it be? So should it be this high, or this high, or that high? Is it 11 feet? It should be the height necessary to protect the structure under a design storm. This is a 15-year storm. This is not a 100-year storm. A 100-year storm, you'd have a 20-foot-high berm. We're not doing that. A 15-year storm has occurred like 3 times in the last 5 years. These are high-frequency events that are going to continue to occur at that type of frequency. What do the top 10 tips from the documents that Marty gave us say? Consult with an engineer and look at the physical factors on the site. Well, that's exactly what we did. It's exactly what we did, to develop a nature-based solution where the rock is sized to the wave that's going to impact it. I heard, win, win, win about 6 times tonight. What's being offered is lose, lose, lose. Oh, yeah, you get to build your house, but guess what? Your land's going to keep eroding, and eventually your house is going to be where that deck is. That sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. No, these are not solutions. These are failures. The objectors here are asking you to approve something that is guaranteed to fail. You know what the objectors don't have? They have one thing in common. They have zero liability. Absolutely zero. They can tell you to build the structure. You should build it this high. Okay, if it fails, are they responsible? No. Who's responsible? The owner. They're the ones taking all the liability. So it's great to have an opinion, and I have my own. But they don't have any liability for their opinion. They don't have to stand behind it. They're not going to be there when the storm comes that takes us away. But the owner's going to be there. I'm confused. I got to admit, I'm confused. Is it eroding or is it stable? If it's eroding, it's really bad because it's going to be a peninsula sticking out into the bay. But the shoreline's not eroding, according to Mr. Petrillo and Mr. Hamilton. It's stable. So what is it? How can it be sticking out into the bay if the shoreline is stable and it's built behind the shoreline? Doesn't make any sense. I'm confused. We've heard again, oh, don't worry, put some sand, plant some beach grass, that stuff's great. You saw the aerial photos. There was 80 or 100 feet of beach there. It was gone inside of a year. Sand is great. I love sand. I use it all the time. Simply doesn't work. The vegetation that's still there that is holding on is all, go look at the root mat of the Phragmites that's there. It's completely undercut. Go there in the winter when the storms hit. The Phragmites used to extend much farther seaward. They're getting eroded and undercut. Vegetation is not going to hold this shoreline. It just isn't going to work. They're suggesting you should approve something that's guaranteed to fail. And I'm suggesting that's a bad decision. A good decision is to follow the science and be dispassionate about this. I understand people are passionate about the beach. That's a great thing. I am too. We're going to lose the public trust area. All of a sudden, the intertidal area is going to disappear like it did with vertical bulkheads. No, this is a sloping, dynamic rock cobble beach. It's going to be sloping and dynamic. That means there's going to be an intertidal area. That's exactly the design. It's this. This is what it is. I don't understand why someone would attempt to scare people into a situation that you see at the top of that aerial photo when the facts are clearly in front of you. This is a sloping, dynamic rock cobble beach. I appreciate the fact that staff and the board need time to review the materials that are put in front of you. And I apologize, as I said, my very first words. We're doing the best we can, all right? This board has asked a lot of us, and we've responded every single time. It is the desire of my client to close the hearing and leave the written record open for Mr. Shea to file a report. If the board decides to do otherwise, that's up to them. But it seems to me that there isn't any information left to discuss. Either you believe the science or you believe the passion. Oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world, and you're going to build groins out into Peconic Bay. I mean, that is so far from the reality of what we've asked to do. Any amount of analysis of, or repeat of that situation, of those contradictions, yeah, we could spend 2 more hearings doing that. Are we really getting any new information? No, we're not. Is the science of how big a cobble is going to change? No. Is the science of a 4.6-foot wave hitting rocks going to change? No. It's not. That's what it is. I might not like it, you might not like it, somebody else might not like it. But those are physical facts that we have to deal with. And they're not going to change. The physical facts are immutable. No amount of scare or passion are going to change them. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I reiterate that respectfully, I would like to close the hearing.
Only since I've been referenced, I had a very brief rebuttal. Very brief.
Okay.
It's true, I'm not an engineer. But you need ocean and coastal lawyers to tell you the law. You need engineers to talk about engineering solutions. You need wildlife biologists to tell you what's going to happen to the intertidal zone. I'm not an engineer, but I have worked with coastal experts, Coastal Erosion Hazard Area Act again. I've worked with an expert down in Florida on a half a mile of steel bulkheads on the beach, so I am familiar with the experts. But I can just witness a few things. It's not hard. Just Army Corps of Engineers, those really brilliant engineers, what did? They built those groins. They thought it would be great. And everybody fell into the sea, and they have a multi-million-dollar liability. No, I couldn't have built those groins. I'm not an engineer. I wouldn't know how to do it. Thank God. So, and then I walk along the ocean beach, and when I did the Gordon case, which I ended up going to court for, and what do I see after a big storm? I see what's happened to the engineering solutions. Go out to the beach with my mom. There's geotubes, those big 6-foot thing sandbags. They were buried, of course, and everyone's told that they would be buried. And as I understand it, at one point, Aram had promised that geotubes would be taken out, and they were never taken out. But those things are fluttering in the wind, big round sandbags. Then there's other heavy sandbags that are exposed from the dune. I walked down the beach with my little old mother, taking a beautiful ocean beach walk. Okay, what do I see? The engineers again. What are they doing? I'm trying to walk, as an ocean and coastal lawyer, down the public right-of-way. And now there's a bulkhead sticking out into the water. And I can't walk down the beach anymore. My poor little mother, is waiting, because you just want to go down the beach, up to here. The engineers again, the brilliant engineers, so brilliant. I walk around town on the bayside. I know again, I have the right to walk up to mean high tide. I have that right. I love that right. In fact, it's really beautiful here because when you go to the New England states, you only have up to mean low tide. I went to the New England states, took a walk down the beach. This police chases me on a 3-wheel drive vehicle. Ma'am. I'm like, what's the problem? I'm walking down the beach. I'm in the dry sand area. I'm like, I'm below the mean high tide. Oh no, in this state, it's below the mean low tide. Our rights here are so beautiful. This mean high tide on the ocean, the Dungan patent. You have the rights of the public up to the dune. It makes all the difference in terms of the quality of life here. So I've seen the engineering solutions, and I am not impressed. I am not impressed. And I'll say act of God again 5 times. No liability. You know what's interesting to me here? You hear this admission. The problem's been caused by the engineering solutions at Woolly Pond. Someone made a decision at Woolly Pond to do an engineering solution, and Aram's admitting that that engineering solution has caused the problem. Ironically, the liability really is, the negligence standard is, what would a reasonable man do in the same or similar circumstances? That is the negligence standard. Whoever did that did not have the foresight to see that they might hurt the Tempestus. That is where liability lies. Again, I tell you, my clients have the right to the sand, and everybody at Downdraft has the right to the sand. The property owner up there on the way north there, holding on to that land, pushing the sand out, probably you could sue him. You probably shouldn't have done that. That was negligent. There was no foresight there, and some board approved that. The real liability should here be going after those who did not act reasonably, and they did engineering solutions that have screwed everyone up down drift. And now there's more solutions by the engineers, and it's going to be a chain effect down to Tower Point, which I love Tower Point. It is beautiful. It is a wide beach. You must go. But it's messed up at this northern end. It is a radically different experience at the northern end. In terms of eroding, not eroding, okay. Arams experts have admitted that, there's going to be a sea level rise of like 48 feet. And again, we can't just look 10 years, 20, 30. What's going to happen when the sea level comes in? We know that's coming in. So, yes, I think the area is eroding, but the sand replenishment from Woolley Pond is what's keeping it stable. So it sounds like a contradiction. I think it's eroding, but for the fact that the sand is replenishing things. Okay, maybe, again, maybe the Woolley Pond people, whoever did that and didn't look out for the Tempestas and everyone else downdraft, maybe somebody should sue them. And maybe they should be damn well dredging a lot more times per year and putting a lot more sand on the Tempestas beach so they're not scrambling in the face of the bay to save this. So I differ with Chuck, who's mentioning getting back into the berms and all that again. In good conscience, I don't know what's going to happen there. I really don't. And I would just, knowing what I know, working with experts and being an ocean coastal lawyer and seeing how these things work again and again, I would go natural. I really would go natural, just to avoid the liability alone. You don't have a duty to stick rocks on the beach. Marty's trying really hard. He's God's gift, in my opinion. Marty's just great. I don't know if that's going to work. I think Marty's really trying to do a compromise. But I wouldn't rely on that. I don't know what's going to happen with any of these structural solutions. Again, if I was sitting on the town board now, the comprehensive solution, again, I would do is in these eroding areas, especially, again, let me emphasize again, the Tempestas are willing to just take that house down. They're not attached to their house. Most people are attached to their house. Then you have a real dilemma. They're willing to take it down. So I would love, and it's voluntary, I can't force anyone to do this, the town board should buy it. And the Tempestas, see that? How wide it is down on the further reaches that aren't messed up by the engineering solutions. They could take a beautiful lot, buy a new lot with the money, which I hope the town would be generous. I would personally go to the town and say, pay them more than it's worth, because it's worth not screwing up this area. And they could have a beautiful wide beach.
I think at this point, just given the hour, we've heard that argument, but unfortunately,
It's very kind, ma'am.
I have a question, Harry. I apologize. It's a question for Aram. Sorry. And we'll just try to, this hopefully would be a yes or no question. So you've argued, you've made the point that the engineers have designed something that is the thing that is protective in the 15-year storm.
That's correct.
Is that protective of the house at its current grade level, or is that protective of the new house envisioned on pilings?
It's both. It's protective of both.
Well, obviously, it would be protective of both, but meaning that if the house was on pilings, would they have a slightly different engineered solution?
No.
Okay, thank you.
See, I did it. Yes or no?
You almost didn't, though. That's some questions.
At this point, we need to move on. Our choice now is to close or not to close. What's the reason that we close the hearing when we've heard enough information? We leave it open when we need more information. Sometimes that more information, and we could have a open for a written comment period, but sometimes that more information, if we just need to analyze the information in the record, we can still close.
I have a point
But-
of order. I'm sorry. but is-
We're done with the public.
Please.
But it's a point of order. Anderson Rules of Order would allow me to make the point of order, which, by the way, is very protective of the board.
We also can't hear you from there. You've got to speak in front of the mic or you're not speaking at all.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you've been so patient. I have to make this point of order, though, because to protect the board. As I said at the last meeting, the application's incomplete. Why is it incomplete? it needs a full environmental assessment form because this is a new action. All these things are new actions. And you need to have a publication and you need to have a posting on the property because people are saying this is going to hurt the environment, this is not, this is not. So right now you have a situation where this new thing has not been noticed, it has not been posted, and people have, a plan comes in at 10:45. So I believe the board is vulnerable because Article 78, they're always one on procedure. So the action hasn't been typed, it's in the wrong type, it's supposed to be unlisted, not type 2, that will make you lose. Your public hearing notice, you don't have one for this new project, that will make you lose. You have to make a determination of significance under seeker, that will make you lose. I'm just trying to protect the board. You better keep the hearing open. Right now, you're completely vulnerable.
Thank you for your comments. What is the pleasure of the board?
As Marty at one point said he needed some more time.
Do you need some time to analyze this information? We have an awful lot of information in the record. I quite frankly don't like any of the solutions. And we've heard just about every solution we can imagine. So we're gonna be caught having to make a decision, which is a difficult decision. And my feeling is there's no sense in dragging it on, because we have to analyze what the record is showing and then make a decision. So I'm leaning towards closing the hearing.
Me too.
But I'm also very respectful of the other members of the board who may wish to keep it open. So I need to hear what your thoughts are.
I don't see the point of keeping it open. Heard enough.
I support closing it.
I said we've heard enough. I don't think we need to keep it open. Close it.
Yeah. I think we can close it.
Keep it open for comments. That would be.
Please stop talking from the audience.
Well, we would keep it open for comments, wouldn't we?
We certainly can.
Yeah, I think that we should do that.
I'm
And
comfortable
have the time
closing
to
it.
review them before we make any decision.
I agree with Ann.
Okay. Is there a motion to
Motion to
close
close the public hearing.
public hearing and leaving it
Leaving it open
open
for 2 weeks for
I'm sorry, I
written
can't hear
comment.
you.
2 weeks for written comment?
2 weeks, 10 days, which would you rather?
Well, let's do,
Let's do 10 days so we can start addressing this in
Will
our
that be
next,
10
in our
10
next
business
meeting.
days, which is
let's
really 2
also
weeks.
say,
Because the report came in late, so I think that we should have enough time to digest everything.
and let's be more specific, let's say the written comment will be open 10 days, 10 business days, which means 2 weeks, which means the written comments will be accepted until 4 o'clock on Wednesday in 2 weeks. Is that okay?
The
2 weeks.
22nd.
2 weeks
22nd.
would be, well, just the 22nd at close of business?
2 weeks, 2 calendar weeks, yeah, at 4 o'clock.
Hold the record open until that time.
Yes, the record will be open for written comments till that time.
Yeah.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is anybody here for the other hearing?
What?
And we have one more hearing.
I have no
Maybe
idea.
outside.
Yeah, they could be.
Who's here?
What a good talk.
Let's give everything back over to the record.
I feel, the puppy's been doing really well, but the puppy is very,
Is your husband there?
he,
or
no,
is it
he
a
just, he
citizen?
said said, your conservation board meetings are so much shorter, she'll be fine.
You don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here.
He's coming in the morning.
In one room?
Yeah,
There's
and they're not, and
another
she's not in a crate. It was too stressful for her. So they're on a couch together, and they've got stuff to chew, and they've got water.
So they have those photos and everything, so let's go back to George.
Because I fed them right before I left.
I didn't get a wall. These are marked. But that's not.
Oh, do I have one of these?
I will keep these images.
Do that.
They were in
Yep.
I don't think, I don't think I want that.
Well, you got a rubber band, so I put everything in the back. You know, that came in today.
Came in today.
This came in today, too.
All right.
Design this for the house at its current elevation. And if you.
Okay, the board will continue now. And the next application is A025047 Adios Holdings LLC.
Started the new hearing? Oh, it's the same people.
Shut the door.
Who's,
I have
Aaron,
to
is this
send it.
yours?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you call. I
Yeah.
apologize. For the record, Aaron Tertunian, First Coastal, West Hampton Beach, on behalf of the applicant. I'm in receipt of a recent email from Marty Shea regarding this. He's asked for a number of things, which I think on the planting plan that I think we can accommodate. I don't know if you're in receipt of the email, I'll just tell you what they are. He has a concern that the,
That please, thank you.
That's mine.
he has a concern that, that if we use nursery trees, that they're going to be less tolerant to saline soils close to the bulkhead, and ask that they be positioned higher up on the bluff face. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but, you've got the plan right here. You're talking, these are a couple of oak trees. These are cherry trees. I mean, yeah, maybe move the oak tree, but I don't think you have to move any, maybe this oak tree and that oak tree, we can move them a little bit, but I don't think we have to move any more than that. I'm gonna, Marty, I'm proposing that to you right now. I'll send you an email on it, but sure, we'll move those two oak trees. I think they actually would be fine there, but we'll move them a little bit. He's asking us to get rid of these two eastern red cedars right over here. What do you have in mind, Marty, to replace them with? You said native deciduous trees. Is there a reason you don't like, you'll get a chance to answer.
I had recommended a list of.
Red cedars on there?
Yeah, and, yeah, I don't know, what's the problem with the cedars?
Going to get salt burned.
Well, everything's going to get salt burned down there. Well, we could wrap them. I haven't had a chance to review this with the client, so I'll be brief because you've heard enough from me. He's got some notes about the black locust stumps, not a problem. He wants some language confirming that the shrubs will not be topped, cut, pruned, or removed. It's got a covenant on the buffer zone that's already there. I don't see the need to add language to the planting plan that's already covered in the buffer zone. He wants us to stake the imported trees to withstand wind conditions, no problem. Doesn't want us to use jute netting. I still object to that, but I don't think we need it here because it's pretty much vegetated, so I don't think we need any. No deer deterrent mesh. Wants us to correctly label the northern bayberry. We'll do that. I still don't like the word morella. Sorry, Marty. I still stay with myrica. Now, he wants us to include the dock on the drawing. Well, the dock is on the survey. The planting plan has nothing to do with the dock. We'd have to change the plan and make it bigger. I don't understand why we need to do that. And then I guess he mentioned, so we had talked, at the last hearing, we had talked, is there a way to administratively approve some of the upland stuff so we can get it away from this whole dock issue? And his answer is no, can't do that. And he's also asking us for a seeker full EAF Part 1 to authorize for this board to rule on the dock application. My sense is we're not going to do that because the applicant's attorney doesn't think the board has jurisdiction, and that issue is not going to be ripe until August at the very earliest. So we're going to come back again. I'll work with Marty to get the planting plan situated a little bit better to his liking, but I don't see the need to add language on a planting plan that's in the covenant, and I don't see the reason to put a dock on a planting plan when it's on the survey.
And then do you want to adjourn this till August?
Yeah, I think that's the best.
Which date?
12 for the 26th.
Marty's going to speak first, but which date in August are you thinking about?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said the 26th.
12 for the 26th, I said.
Say the 26th.
Okay.
Oh, no, don't say the 26th. That's a bad week. Say the 12th.
You can go to September. You want to go to September?
No, let's say the 12th. If something happens on the August 5th date, it'll be ripe for us to hear.
September 9th? Okay.
Good evening, Marty Shid, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. I'm not going to touch upon the needed refinements to the revegetation plan, as I can work that through with Aaron. But what I am going to touch on is, as was alluded to by the applicant, there was some discussion brief discussion at the last minute as to whether or not there would be any opportunity to go forward with permitting of the bluff restoration, either pursuant to a conservation board permit or an administrative wetland permit, as well as allow for the bulkhead reconstruction, notwithstanding that the matter of the unauthorized dock construction has not yet been resolved. I gave that additional thought, and I'm just going to hand this out. This is another possible option that would allow us to go forward with permitting of the bluff restoration and bulkhead reconstruction. And that practicable alternative would be for the applicant to agree to temporary disassembly and stockpile of the unauthorized dock and pilings, thereby enabling the Conservation Board to proceed with wetland permitting of bulkhead reconstruction, covenanted buffer restoration, pursuant to an updated as-built survey, which, as a consequence of the dock disassembly, would no longer show a dock either on the revegetation plan or the survey, and the pursuant to the needed refinements to the revegetation plan. Yet enabling the applicant to subsequently return to the Conservation Board to seek approval and/or wetland non-jurisdictional determination, if applicable, for a plan to reassemble and reconstruct the dock pier once the bulkhead work and the bluff restoration is complete and a certificate of wetland compliance has been issued, and any pending legal action has been decided upon. Unfortunately, the need for the bluff restoration and bulkhead reconstruction is being hamstrung by the lengthy delays in any court decision regarding pending legal actions. What's interesting is after the dock was put in, The dock had suffered some significant damage as a result of shifting of ice flows this past winter. And because it's a light penetrable decked dock, you know, a part of it had to be repaired and reconstructed, and it was very easily done. And the applicant also had installed additional pilings to better support and bolster the dock to protect it from those shifting ice flows. So it's not that large of a dock, so that the applicant wouldn't potentially be able to disassemble it at this time, to retain those materials, provide an updated survey showing us that right now, in the interim, the dock is not there. Then we could proceed with issuing the wetland permit for the bulkhead reconstruction. They could proceed with the bluff restoration. They could close that permit out, and then once any legal action regarding the regulation of the dock is decided upon, they could come back to the board to get this board, potentially to get this board's approval, or if appropriate, a letter of wetland non-jurisdiction in order to reconstruct that dock. So I'm just offering that as a possible option. I know the applicant has great interest in moving ahead with the bulkhead reconstruction. I've already indicated I have no issues with the bulkhead reconstruction. As just mentioned, Aram and I can work out any needed final refinements to the revegetation plan. And I know they had expressed an interest in getting that done. That would potentially be done this fall. And, you know, right now, we don't know how long it's going to take in order to resolve the legal questions related to the dock. But that's a possible option that I would just offer. Thank you.
Do you want to change the adjournment date?
No, Aram Tertunian on behalf of the applicant. I really appreciate Marty's out-of-the-box thinking, and I will bring it to my client, but I think that's going to be a hard no. But it was creative, got to admit.
All right, is there anyone who wants to speak to this application? Being none, is there a motion to adjourn to August 12th?
August 12th, yeah.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Do we need executive session today, or can it be adjourned? It can be
It can be
postponed?
adjourned. We can do it next time.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn, or to?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Good night.